de jeunesse pour la région, mais aussi des questions transfrontalières qui nous intéressent particulièrement. Ces documents vous permettront de pouvoir anticiper sur les problématiques qui seront débattues demain à la séance où la Banque mondiale est impliquée. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our next moderator, coming from our continental organization, the African Union, who is a strong supporter of this initiative. But more importantly, this is our continental organization, so it makes perfect sense that they actually support initiatives like this. So the objective, as I said, of our second session, after our first session, which is really about giving you an update in terms of where we are on security and humanitarian issues, but also in regional stabilization. Now we're going to actually dive into the needs, the demand of this region, and to understand what the demands is, what the needs are, so that we can actually walk away at least in the second edition and knowing the type of support that's required. So without further ado, I'd like you to put your hands together as I invite Dr. Alhaji Sadio Ba from the African Union Commission as a moderator of our next session before he invites the governors to join him on stage. Give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Ibrahima, and good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. When they showed me the program, I made one conclusion, that I have very limited number of friends here, because when you are asked to moderate after lunch, it is extremely difficult. But not only that, they then said you can only give the governors 10 minutes. Now, how do you moderate after lunch and then you give the governors 10 minutes without getting into a lot of trouble? So I am going to try and see the 10 minutes that they've given to the governors. I'm going to be very generous and perhaps reduce that to 7 minutes each per governor in order to ensure that we have a bit of time to really reflect on some of the issues that we are here to discuss. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. At this point, I would like to invite the various governors, and I will invite them by the following order. His Excellency Professor Engineer Babagana Umara, the Executive Governor of Borno State. Is there the governor or his representative from Borno? Okay, we are still working on that. The second governor I would like to invite is His Excellency Mr. Mohamed Mudur, the governor of the Difa region. Excellency. The third governor I would like to invite is His Excellency Mr. Midiyawa Bakari, the governor of the Far North region. I don't see him here, but I'm sure he will join us soon. And the next to be invited is His Excellency Mr. Abati Edijon, the governor of the North region from Cameroon. He's also not in the room, but he will be joining us soon. I would like to invite the Honorable Mr. Crowder Said, the Deputy Governor of Adamawa State, who I see right here. Mr. Governor, please. So the governor just informed me that he will be represented by the Secretary to the Government, Alhaji Basir Ahmed. Alhaji Basir, please. And I would like to also invite His Excellency Alhaji Mai Balabuni, the Governor of Yobe State. or his representative in this case. Excellent. And I would like to, at this point, also invite His Excellency Mr. Ali Haroun, the governor of the Hajj Al-Amis region from Chad. His Excellency, please. And then finally, I would like to invite His Excellency Professor Adam Noki Chafadin, the governor of the Lake Chad region. Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, just as we were waiting for our brothers from the far north, the north, and the other governors who were not here or their representatives, you can see that miracles do happen. They all showed up at the same time, and we have our 8 governors or their representatives on the podium. So may you please join me in welcoming all the 8 governors here. Excellencies, when you look at the program, on the program it says there will be a presentation on lessons learned from Somalia, 10 years of AU stabilization effort by the special representative of the chairperson of the Commission, Ambassador Madiera. I am not Ambassador Madiera, but I will be presenting 4 or 5 key major lessons that we have learned after having spent 13 years in Somalia, trying to stabilize a country that was until 20 years ago described as a failed state. I think Ambassador Nuhu, in his wisdom, and the organizers of this meeting felt that the executive governors of this region will benefit significantly from hearing about some of the key lessons that we have identified in Somalia and how some of those lessons can be applied or could be applied in the context of the Lake Chad Basin region. So before we hear from our respective governors, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of my senior brother, Ambassador Madiera, who could not join us, to just say a word or two on what are some of the major lessons and what are some of the major messages that we have picked up having spent 13 years in Somalia. We went into Somalia as the African Union in 2007, thinking that we'll be leaving in 2 years. We were terribly mistaken. 13 years later, we are still in Somalia. So what I would like to do at this point is basically to reflect on, and I will try to be as brief as possible, on the 5 major lessons that we've drawn from Somalia, which we hope would help to also inform not only the governors, but the partners who are involved in supporting the stabilization efforts in this country. Can we have the first slide, please? What we have there, you can see, is we've already been in Somalia for the past 13 years. Somalia is the largest stabilization effort ever to be undertaken by the African Union since its establishment in 2002. We have over 22,000 uniformed personnel and civilians in Somalia with a budget of close to $1 billion a year. And I don't need to really, I don't say this lightly, the human sacrifice in Somalia has been enormously, enormously high. And we pay our tribute to the men and women who've paid the ultimate sacrifice. So in doing all of this for 13 years, we'd like to share with you 5 key lessons. Lesson number 1 for us is that stability or stabilization cannot be sustained if a political settlement is not forthcoming. In other words, the military is there to support a political process. So with our brother here, Ambassador Nuhu, and his first commander, General Ude will do what he has to do as a military man, but in order for us to consolidate the gains of the MNJTF, there has to be a political solution, or there has to be a political settlement of sorts. I think we are still learning this, but we would like to share this experience with you to say that after 13 years in Somalia, just like I think the Americans realized in Afghanistan, that there has to be a political solution that will build on the successes of the military. We think this is an extremely important lesson to share with you. The second major lesson that we've learned from Somalia is that when providing for security and sustaining security is extremely critical for stabilization efforts. In other words, we can only implement the stabilization strategy that we are all talking about today if General Ude and his team are able to provide the necessary security environment. That for us, I think, is extremely important. In Somalia, we are realizing that the areas where we have recaptured and we've been able to reestablish government authority, the stabilization efforts have been far more successful than the areas that are still highly volatile and there is active military engagement. The third major lesson, which for us is also important to share with you here, is that restoring basic infrastructure is critical to the access to questions of livelihood. What you see in the picture there is in one of the recent military encounters with Al-Shabaab, as they were pulling out, they destroyed that bridge, and that is the only bridge that links the communities, who are mostly farmers, on the one side, to Mogadishu. So it was now the challenge for the African Union mission in Somalia to restore that bridge in order to ensure that the people's livelihoods are not interrupted in a way that they will now fall into the hands of Al-Shabaab. And I think this is a lesson that I'm sure General Ude and his officers deal with on a day-to-day basis. The fourth major lesson, and I think this is extremely important, and on this one here, I would like to call out our partners, the UNDP, the World Bank, and others. Partner coordination is not only essential, it is absolutely, absolutely critical. There are times when we find ourselves in Somalia, we have to fight Al-Shabaab on the one hand, but then we have to also fight to keep the peace in the boardrooms when you have a range of actors coming together in order to support this. And I guess this is a similar challenge that Ambassador Nuhu will have to deal with as he tries to implement the stabilization strategies. Different actors will come with different national imperatives, different, I don't want to call them agendas, but different priorities. How we ensure that these priorities are defined and they coalesce around the major objective identified by the region is extremely important. So for us in Somalia, we think that this is absolutely critical, and we think in the Lake Chad Basin region, we are going to be confronted with this challenge. I don't need to say much about the Sahel, where we already have 18 strategies that are not necessarily complementary. I think that tells you the enormity of the challenges that we are confronted with in the Sahel. In the Lake Chad Basin, we have a very unique advantage. There is only one strategy. As of this morning, I'm not sure if there has been another strategy since launch, but we are not going to allow another strategy. So there is only one strategy for the Lake Chad Basin, and we'll want to encourage all partners, and we'll want to encourage, of course, all those involved and interested in accompanying us in this journey to put their efforts, their resources, and their political weight behind the strategy that we have all subscribed to. The final lesson for us from Somalia is, and this is stating the obvious, that stabilization is a capital-intensive endeavor. It requires a lot of resources. We just tried to reflect there, if you look at the slides, to say that last year, in 2018, our mission in Somalia implemented 47 quick impact projects. But then if you look at what is actually required, we are looking at $1.8 billion in order to be able to just meet basic needs in Somalia, and we were only able to implement 47 projects. I'm not going to tell you how much we spent on that, so you don't say we are underspending or we are overspending. But just to tell you that it is a very capital-intensive exercise, and it's extremely, extremely important. And like the Lake Chad Basin area, if you look at the demographics, 67% of the youth in Somalia are unemployed. When Nelson Mandela came out of jail, out of prison in Robben Island, they asked him a question, and they said, what was the most difficult moment for you in the 26 years that you spent in Robben Island? I think he talked about 2 or 3. The first one was when he lost his son, he couldn't go to bury him. But the second one, he said, which I found very instructive, was not knowing why I was waking up every day. Because we all wake up. As a governor, you have to go and manage Adamawa, Yobe, the other regions. As Ambassador Nuhu, you have to come to the LCBC Secretariat and manage it. But for 27 years, Mr. Mandela didn't know why he was waking up. I use this analogy to demonstrate the plight of our children. Most of our young men and women don't know why they wake up every day, whether it's in Sierra Leone, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's here in Niger, meaning we need to be able to provide livelihood opportunities to our youth in order to ensure that they stop crossing the desert, drowning in the Mediterranean, and they just become some statistics that is being circulated every day on the international media. Excellencies, I think at this point, I will just pause for a moment if there are any questions, but to say, in our view, these are the 5 major lessons that we have learned from Somalia, and we are hoping that these lessons, to the extent applicable, would inform what we are doing in the Lake Chad Basin, and once we move into the Sahel, this will help us also to address some of the challenges in the Sahel region. So I will pause for a moment if there are any questions. If there are no questions, then we'll continue with the program. And I think what we'll do, I see the moderator, Ibrahima, is a very strict moderator. He summoned us to breakfast this morning at 7 a.m., so I protested and he adjusted the time to 8. So now he's saying I have to move on. Excellencies, I think with the presence of the 8 governors here and their representatives, I am fully empowered to declare this session, other than the session in the morning with the Prime Minister, as the most important session, just because I'm moderating it, if for no other reason. But I think this session is extremely important. The Prime Minister, in his statement this morning, mentioned a very important point, and he said the governors are the ones who are in the driver's seat in terms of really implementing the stabilization strategy, in terms of restoring the governance architecture that has been destroyed in the Lake Chad Basin. Now, after having developed the strategy, one of the most critical steps in taking the strategy forward is developing what we call the territorial action plans. And the territorial action plans, essentially, at the heart of them is to ensure the domestication of the stabilization strategy. And here, when we reflected on this process, we came up with about 4 generic principles that we thought would be extremely important. We've discussed them with the officers, the technical officers of the governors and their representatives in the last meeting that we had in N'Djamena. Step number 1 is that the territorial action plans will have to be aligned to the national development policies, plans, and the budgetary processes of the various regions that we have here. It is pointless, in other words, to say, Ambassador Nuhu to come and say, keep all your programs and activities. I have a miracle here for you from N'Djamena. It is not going to work. So the first step in actually developing the territorial action plans is to ensure that it is properly aligned with the national development plans, the programs, and the activities that all the governors have in place, and they will be sharing with that with us in the next little while. The second major area is to ensure that the territorial action plans are properly aligned with the 9 pillars of the stabilization strategy. As you are aware, the strategy has 9 broad pillars, from security to governance, gender, development, and education. The third major consideration in developing the stabilization, the territorial action plans, is that it will follow a territorial stakeholder consultation process. Where I come from in Sierra Leone, they say it will be very presumptuous for somebody to come and say, looks like the shoes you are wearing, aren't they a bit uncomfortable? I should be able to know whether my shoes are uncomfortable or not. So we have to listen to the people, the grassroots, the governors will have to listen to their own people in order to be able to develop these territorial action plans to ensure that they reflect the realities of the people that they are leading in the region. And then the final point that we feel is extremely important is that the territorial action plans should be very, very creative, but they should also be innovative in responding to the needs of at least 3 or 4 key categories of our demographics: the women, the children, the youth. But then in doing all of this, one of the major challenges we are dealing with in the Sahel and in the Lake Chad Basin region is the impact of the climate change. So the environmental consequences. I was told, I don't think I was around in the 1960s, that in the 1960s, the Lake Chad had sufficient water to really provide livelihoods for the bulk of the people around this area. That has significantly changed, so we need to reflect on that going forward. So what I have decided to do, they had said to me, you give all the governors 10 minutes each. Then I said that is going to be extremely difficult, so I haven't consulted with the governors, but I can see they already agree with me on this. So what we are going to do, I have crafted 3 or 4 key questions, and which will guide our brothers in their interventions. Already this morning, I think in all their presentations, the governors made reference to some of their priorities. So the way we are going to go about it, without me getting into any further trouble, is then we'll have one set of questions that all the governors will take, and then we'll pause a bit if we have some interventions from the floor, and then we'll come. So we'll have 3 or 4 set of questions that will guide the interventions of the governors, which I think they are relatively happy with it. At least my immediate neighbor here, the governor, has indicated that he's happy with it, so there is consensus. Excellencies, I think I will start with the first governor I have on the list here, the executive governor of Borno State. And the question, which is applicable to all the governors, is, Excellency Governor or his representative, can you indicate to us what are your 4 key priorities in terms of the stabilization of the Borno State? 4 key priorities. If you want to make it 3, it's okay, but we wanted to make sure we keep it at no more than 4. Executive Governor, please. And who has the mic? There should be a roving mic.
You just wanted me to mention or to explain more?
You can elaborate on them.
Okay. First and foremost, one of my priorities is that of inclusive and participatory approach is understood as vital for addressing human security priorities. Human security priorities with a view to implementing stabilization process. When I heard this morning the huge amount of money that is being requested to solve our immediate humanitarian request, that thing now comes to me. Why that huge amount? Do we have effective coordination mechanism at the grassroots level that involves the participation of the local, from conceptualizing the idea up to implementation? Coordination is very key. Huge amount of funding is coming, but this funding, it's a question for us to ask whether the funds are being judiciously utilized or not. The second question is that whether there is an inclusive participatory approach. These 2 things are very critical. And then the next, the issue of security. Number 2, the security. The nexus between peace, security, and development is very critical. And therefore, what we need is security. But again, the most important thing is that we need to address the root causes of the security. You have mentioned about the means of livelihood, high unemployment rate, desertification. These are very serious issues. Then the next is agriculture, which is food security. Agriculture provides employment for over 90% of the population in our own state. With limited access to land, what is the solution? The last but not the least is reconstruction, rehabilitation, and resettlement. Right now, there is increasing prostitution in the IDP camps, increasing drug abuse in the IDP camps, increasing progression in the IDP camps, and the donor partners are injecting more funds in terms of stabilization and short-term measures. We are thinking of long-term solutions, of opening access, rebuilding homes in areas that are secured, rehabilitating, economic recovery, improving the means of livelihood, then resettling the back people to the community so that the dependent or beggars for food supply from the donor partners will be diminishing. This is the only solution. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Governor Babagana. I think at this point I will pose the same question to my good brother, the governor of the Difa region, Mr. Mohamed Mudur. Mr. Mudur, what are your key 4 priority areas for the Difa region? Governor, please.
Merci beaucoup, c'est le facilitateur. Alors, pour une sortie de crise pour la région de Difa, le Premier ministre l'a rappelé ce matin, il y a déjà un comité ministériel qui a été mis en place par le Premier ministre pour réfléchir, et ce comité a été mis en place depuis 2015. Alors, pour sortir la région de la crise, il faut nécessairement un plan de sortie de crise. Et ce plan passe nécessairement par le retour des déplacés. Cela est un choix stratégique du gouvernement, car, comme vous le savez, aucun programme de développement, encore moins de construction ou reconstruction ou de réhabilitation ne peut être entrepris dans la région sans le retour de ces populations déplacées. Donc c'est vraiment une option très stratégique du gouvernement pour la sortie des crises, la sortie de la situation d'urgence actuelle. Et tout naturellement, ces retours passent nécessairement par la sécurisation des personnes et des biens. Ça, c'est une priorité essentielle. En ce moment, la région de Difa fait face à des incursions tout azimut, tout le temps, sur des paisibles citoyens. Ça, c'est des indicateurs quand même qui nous inquiètent beaucoup, parce que nous souhaiterons vivement le retour des populations, mais nous sentons que l'heure n'est pas encore à cela. Nous n'arrivons pas encore à contenir, en tout cas, ces incursions. Comme vous savez, nous avons une frontière assez longue avec notre voisin du Sud, Et les incursions, elles se font à travers des stratégies donc, de la nébuleuse. C'est des individus, 2, 3, 4, des fois à chevaux, des fois à pied, qui font des incursions pratiquement sur une frontière de 250 km. Ça, c'est très, très difficile à gérer et c'est pratiquement toute cette zone qui est riveraine à la Koumadougou. Donc ça, c'est vraiment un sérieux défi. L'autre priorité pour nous autres, c'est la consolidation de la paix, la cohésion sociale. La présence de Boko Haram, ou en tout cas les interventions de Boko Haram sur notre territoire, ont créé malheureusement des tensions sociales, puisqu'il y a eu un développement du banditisme un peu partout, et il y a une certaine aussi méfiance entre certaines communautés. Donc, il y a lieu vraiment de créer les conditions d'une cohésion sociale pour que, en tout cas, la paix soit consolidée. Alors, bien entendu, l'autre priorité essentielle, c'est la reconstruction, la relance des activités de développement sur le plan économique et sur le plan social. La région de Difa repose, comme vous le savez, je l'ai rappelé ce matin, pour l'essentiel sur la pêche et l'agriculture, bien entendu, avec l'élevage. Mais toutes ces activités sont aujourd'hui plus ou moins compromises par Boko Haram. Et il y a lieu, vraiment, une fois que nos zones seront sécurisées, de relancer très très rapidement ces activités-là. Après vient la prise en compte des couches les plus vulnérables, à savoir les jeunes et les femmes. Nos jeunes, au niveau de la région de Difa, sont en proie à un désœuvrement, puisque pour l'essentiel, beaucoup d'entre eux ont perdu leurs activités d'antan. Si je prends l'exemple des taxis motos, avec l'interdiction d'utilisation des motos dans la région de Difa, c'est environ 13 000 jeunes, en tout cas de par les statistiques que nous avons, qui ont perdu leur emploi. Ils vivaient sur la base de cela. Quand nous prenons la pêche, c'est pratiquement toute cette bande-là qui vit de cela. Et la pêche, elle constitue plus que le pétrole, elle rapporte plus que le pétrole. En 2014, les statistiques ont donné 14 milliards pour la pêche. Et il en est de même pour les cultures de poivrons. Difa étant le réservoir, c'est connu pour les poivrons, la culture du poivron. En 2013, c'est entre 10 et 12 milliards que ça a rapporté à la région. Et tout ça, aujourd'hui, ce n'est plus possible de faire ces productions. Nous avons environ 16 aménagements hydro-agricoles. Aujourd'hui, à peine 6 peuvent être exploités. Donc, c'est pour vous dire que, à ce niveau, une fois qu'on aura en tout cas relancé ces activités de développement, on va juguler sans doute aussi ce problème d'emploi des jeunes, qui est vraiment un grand, grand souci pour les populations de Difa. Et bien sûr, sans oublier que pour les femmes, il faut nécessairement, en tout cas, une certaine autonomisation. Il faut développer des activités génératrices de revenus à leur endroit. Bref, en tout cas, c'est cela que j'ai retenu comme priorité essentielle pour la région de Difa. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Governor. I think those are clearly articulated, like the previous governor of Borno. At this point, I would like to invite my brother, Governor Bakari, from the far north region of Cameroon.
Merci de me passer la parole. Merci de me passer la parole. Les priorités au Cameroun, les solutions de sortie des crises sont déjà en expérimentation. La première des solutions mises sur pied et qui, à mon sens, porte déjà fruit, c'est l'intensification de la coopération civilo-militaire, déjà en bonne voie sur le terrain, au fin de l'anéantissement complet des menaces sécuritaires sous toutes ses formes dans la zone du bassin du lac Tchad. Donc, entre les militaires qui combattent Boko Haram et les civils, il va falloir créer une sorte de confiance, parce que les gens ne se tiennent pas la main. Vous ne serez pas surpris dans la région de l'extrême nord ou au Cameroun, en train de trouver dans des salles de classe les militaires en train de donner des cours aux élèves de l'école primaire et même parfois du lycée, là où Boko Haram a dû chasser tout le monde, brûler les salles de classe, détruire les hôpitaux, les populations sont parties. Il n'y a que ces militaires qui peuvent faire renaître l'espoir. Donc ici et là, vous allez retrouver dans les villages, parce qu'on est dans la phase de stabilisation et les chefs traditionnels, les populations retournent déjà. Et à la faveur de la saison pluvieuse, ils renouent avec ces activités agricoles. Donc l'armée, le BIR, vous avez quelqu'un a parlé le matin de l'opération émergence et alpha. Ceux-là, au-delà des missions sécuritaires qu'ils exercent, essaient également d'appuyer les populations. Entre autres, ils donnent des cours. Les écoles qui étaient fermées, c'est les militaires qui donnent des cours. Et ça nous a permis de traverser, d'éviter d'avoir une année blanche. Et les résultats, je vous dirais même, sont parfois meilleurs, parce que les enfants sont rassurés. Et toujours dans le cadre de cette activité civilo-militaire, nous avons des colonels médecins, nous avons des infirmiers médecins qui font des caravanes de santé, là où les hôpitaux, les dispensaires sont détruits. Ils arrivent à faire des caravanes, ils s'installent pour des semaines pour soigner les gens. Vous savez, le palu, ici, dans cette zone, fait des ravages. Ils arrivent même à opérer les maladies comme la cataracte, la hernie et autres. Donc, ils arrivent également à rééquiper. Nous avons ce que nous appelons génie militaire, qui font dans les travaux, travaux publics, réhabilitation des routes, construction des ponts et autres. Ils ont eu par endroit à reconstruire les salles de classe, à les rééquiper en termes de tables bancs, à fournir de matériel didactique aux élèves. Et parfois même, c'est des caravanes, des camions pleins de nourriture, des riz, des poissons et j'en passe. Donc tout ça, ça réconforte la population et ça crée une sorte de confiance mutuelle. Les populations se sentent rassurées et ils renouent avec les activités d'antan qui sont l'agriculture, l'élevage et le commerce. Donc l'armée, je disais, dans le cadre de l'activité civilo-militaire, au-delà de la sécurisation de ces zones, réussit à appuyer, à relancer les populations dans les activités d'antan. Et autre chose, nous avons également une expérience camerounaise, ce que nous appelons les comités de vigilance. C'est des jeunes qui s'organisent dans les villages, dans les villes, et qui accompagnent nos forces de défense et de sécurité en termes de renseignements et d'information. Bref, ils ne sont pas habitués à combattre, ils ne combattent pas, mais ils donnent des renseignements. Vous savez que c'est primordial dans le cadre de la lutte. Si vous avez l'information, vous pouvez en temps réel intervenir. Donc, dans presque tous les villages, les comités de vigilance sont constitués. Et c'est des jeunes, appuyés des vieux, des sages, des chefs traditionnels, des leaders religieux. Ils s'organisent, une fois des rôles leur sont établis, ils savent jusqu'où ils peuvent aller. Ils ne peuvent pas juger les gens, ils ne peuvent pas tirer, porter atteinte aux aux personnes, mais il donne l'information en temps réel aux forces pour une intervention. Et ceci, nous avons vu des résultats probants. C'est des attaques kamikazes. À un certain moment, c'était légion. On en a enregistré 4, 5, 8 par jour dans les 3 régions, les 3 départements menacés. Mais l'État, le chef de l'État leur a octroyé des motos, des bicyclettes. Ils vont à distance, pratiquement à la lisière dans les frontières. Ils détectent, ils ont également des outils de travail, les détecteurs de métaux. Ils arrivent à intercepter les gens, à vérifier ce qu'ils ont sur eux, et à maintes reprises, ils ont pu mettre en déroute, c'est hors la loi. Donc il y a également cette organisation-là qui opère aux côtés de nos forces de sécurité, et ensemble, nous voyons les résultats. Autre chose qu'il convient ici de signaler, comme je l'ai dit, ces comités de vigilance opèrent souvent à la lisière vers la frontière, et ceci renforce la lutte contre l'insécurité transfrontalière. Nous avons également l'opéralisation du centre régional du comité de désarmement, de démobilisation, de réinsertion qui a été créé tout récemment par le chef d'État et qui est piloté par le Premier ministre, chef du gouvernement, avec un coordonnateur national et avec dans les régions des chefs de centres régionaux. Parce qu'à un certain moment, nous avons constaté que les populations, les jeunes qui avaient rallié les rangs de Boko Haram revenaient en masse, ayant constaté que ce qu'on leur a promis, c'était du bluff. On leur a promis monts et merveilles, ils vont s'enrichir et tout et tout. Une fois là-bas, ils ont été traités comme des esclaves. Et le chef d'État a lancé un appel pour que les gens reviennent construire leur pays. Ils sont revenus par vagues. À Mora, présentement, nous avons un centre là où nous en avons presque 200, 300. Et le centre est créé, les constructions sont en cours. Et presque tous les ministères ont chacun un pan qui s'occupe de ces jeunes. Ils seront formés à l'agriculture, à l'élevage, aux petits métiers. Mais également, parallèlement, nous avons le volet qui concerne leur moralité. Il va falloir travailler le côté, les valeurs républicaines qui leur a fait défaut, et c'est pour ça qu'ils sont partis. Donc nous avons un ministère de la jeunesse qui s'en occupe. Les religieux, les curés et autres limans seront également appelés à contribution pour les parler effectivement de Dieu, qui est différent de Dieu qu'ils ont et qui constitue à tuer, à saccager, à brûler. Donc, cette activité est en cours et très bientôt, ces jeunes-là seront formés. Nous avons également la poursuite du plaidoyer en vue de l'opération de la création éventuelle des juridictions traditionnelles, tribunaux de premier degré et consorts, afin de faciliter l'accès des populations à la justice à moindre coût. Mais il y a le plus important, la réalisation des projets à impact rapide, sélectionnés dans les plans communaux de développement des collectivités touchées par la crise, avec un accent particulier sur les infrastructures scolaires, sanitaires et routières, et sans oublier les infrastructures des marchés frontaliers. Il y a la poursuite également de l'amélioration du système de la documentation civile pour avoir des actes de naissance. Bref, Boko Haram tirant son origine dans l'analphabétisation et la pauvreté, dont tout a été mis en œuvre pour couper à la base les racines de cette nébuleuse. Voilà, de manière ramassée, ce que j'ai apporté à votre attention. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Governor Bakari. You can see the time managers keep coming and going, and I tell them, leave me alone. You are the one who asked me to come here. So they are insisting that we stick to the 3 or 4 priorities, which I am just transmitting the message. At times they say you don't kill the messenger. At this point, I would like to invite my brother, the governor of the North Region, His Excellency, Mr. Abati Jean. Mr. Abati.
Thank you very much for... What can I say after my colleague's speech? It's very simple. You have 4 words: security, peace, development, and the management of culture. Security is very difficult. It's not our issue today to talk about it. Mais je voudrais, tout en enchaînant sur cet angle et en appuyant mon collègue, parce que ce qui se fait au Cameroun, on voudrait peut-être partager cette expérience. Cela peut paraître surprenant et ça va peut-être amuser beaucoup de gens. Je préfère que ce soit ici. Et je voudrais interpeller les chefs traditionnels et les religieux. Aujourd'hui, nous avons affaire à des criminels qui tuent, qui font tout ce que vous avez, vous imaginez. Certains sous l'angle de propagation d'une idéologie religieuse. Tout ça, c'est la criminalité pure et simple. Et le traitement d'un criminel, ce n'est pas de le caresser. Il faut le traiter au catcher. J'interpelle donc les chefs religieux et les autorités traditionnelles. Vous qui êtes dépositaires d'un pouvoir spécial, et on le sait, on va vous organiser pour que des prières spéciales soient dites à l'intention de ceux qui financent Boko Haram, de l'intérieur ou de l'extérieur. Et on doit se donner des priorités. Celui qui finance Boko Haram, vous devez lui donner 3 mois pour qu'il devienne fou. Et c'est possible. Parce que croyez-nous, on le dit, ça peut peut-être vous paraître bizarre, mais croyez-moi, qu'est-ce qui permet que des criminels comme cela puissent déranger 4 États? Mais attendez un peu, soyons sérieux. Où est parti le pouvoir traditionnel? Vous vous asseyez, vous faites ce qui doit être fait et vous donnez 3 mois. Même s'il est à l'extérieur de l'Afrique, il devient fou. Applaudissez. Je reviens à quelque chose de plus sérieux, parce que c'est important. De temps en temps, on n'est pas dans une association ou une réunion où on doit être trop crispé. C'est vrai que ce problème est dangereux. Nous voulons donc aussi inviter ceux qui continuent à alimenter ce problème de comprendre que des populations souffrent. Il ne se passe pas chaque jour sans qu'il y ait mort d'homme au Niger, au Nigeria, au Cameroun, au Tchad. Voilà des bras, des êtres humains qui sont indispensables à nos développements. Comment peut-on se développer avec des morts, avec la maladie, avec les attentats? Je vous l'ai dit, le programme que nous appliquons, mon collègue l'a déroulé. Mais il était important que je puisse interpeller ceux qui sont dépositaires du pouvoir des ancêtres et les leaders religieux. Parce que vous avez une grande responsabilité. Vous n'avez pas un pouvoir qui est lié sur les mandats. Vous n'êtes pas élu pour 5 ans renouvelables, tant d'années. Quand un chef traditionnel, il est à vie. Et que faites-vous de vos pouvoirs? Vous attendez seulement la zakat pour ramasser et tout. Ce n'est pas normal. Il faut qu'on se dise des choses sérieuses. C'est dans le sérieux aussi qu'on peut bâtir quelque chose de très important. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Governor John. I think your 3 months probation period for someone to be declared insane is going to be a major message that is coming out of this meeting, and we'll reflect on it properly. At this point, I would like to call on the Honorable Governor Crowder Seth, and in this case, his representative, the Deputy Executive Governor of Adamawa State.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In Adamawa State, the situation is getting calmer, but the difficulty we face mainly is that of ensuring security of returnees in the communities where people have returned. We share a long border with Cameroon, so we still have pockets of insurgency, some soft target attacks, which I think will be helped greatly if we're able to coordinate the activities of the security agencies between us and Cameroon on the other side. Because on the northern part, where we have Madagali, to be specific, Madagali-Michika, that shares border with the Cameroon, we have cross-border insurgency. There will be attacks on this side, and then the insurgents will run to the other side for safety. So securing the communities where returnees have already gone back is a very major challenge. With that, it means they can't even carry out any economic activity to sustain themselves. Livelihood becomes difficult. And to be my brother in Borno and Yobe, I think with one other state in the northeast, recently, we don't know how we're going to face this. We have been barred from using fertilizer blended for this farming season. So food security is going to be a very serious issue for us, because the alternative is not easy to come by. Liquid fertilizer is not easy to come by. So we have that challenge. Next is re-establishing basic infrastructure in terms of bridges that have been bombed when the Boko Haram went in, and also rebuilding schools, health facilities, police posts to ensure internal security, markets, and those necessary social infrastructure that will sustain both livelihood and also social activities. Lastly, we have some problems with the coordination of the development partner activities in the state. We have quite a number of them carrying out a lot of things uncoordinated. In fact, I think we are not in a position to tell actually now as to how many of them are rendering assistance within the state. So the coordination of their activities is also a very great challenge to us. But this, we have recently asked them to come over for a discussion so that we'll be able to streamline the activities with the overall development plan that the state has come up with. So in a nutshell, this is what I can say for now.
Thank you very much for those well-articulated points and for the brevity. I think you raised a critical point on partner coordination that I'm sure will be coming back to that as we get to the end of this particular session. At this point, I would like to call on His Excellency Alhaji Mai Buni, the Executive Governor of Yobe State.
Thank you very much. Yobe is relatively safe now. We have about 10 local governments that are completely free from Boko Haram out of 17. The 7 local governments that are bordering in the east where we have some insurgents coming from across the borders, both from part of the Sambisa and then part of the we have a long border between Nigeria and Niger, and we have been discussing this issue with the multilateral task force so that they will be able to address this particular issue. Apart from that areas where they come in, we don't have a camp of Boko Haram within Yobe State. But and we don't have any IDP camp in Yobe State. But one of the major challenges we are now facing is the returnees going back to their local communities from the host communities to address the problem of their infrastructure, their livelihoods, their means of survival, so that they will be able to address this, their means of livelihood. Recently, one of the major challenges faced, which His Excellency the Governor Mai Malabuni, which he addressed, was the problem of education. We found out that we have many out-of-school children in Yobe State. So these out-of-school children, he has to declare a state of emergency on education. We call it an education summit, which was declared open early this month. A technical committee is now working in order to address a problem of basic education and how to integrate the basic education system with the Sangaya and the Almajiri system so that we will be able to address this. This is one of the issues which I think is very important. It's one of the priority areas of the state. The other issue is to do with health. We have a lot of problem of maternal and child mortality in the rural areas, and he has declared that there should be at least one primary health care center in each of the ward in the local government so that that area will be able to address the problem of this problem or health problems in the state. So these areas are very important, the education, health. And one other very important issue is to do with agriculture and youth empowerment. We know that we have been discussing this issue of youth empowerment. Most of the recruits into the Boko Haram are youth. They are the people who have been, recruited into the system, into the Boko Haram, into the insurgents. And you have a lot of them who are now idle and doing a lot of, who are not being gainfully employed. So His Excellency is addressing this particular issue. Yobe State government is addressing this issue through the provision of various youth empowerment packs and capital gains so that we'll be able to address the problem of youth empowerment and agriculture. Agriculture and youth empowerment has to go hand in hand because one of the states with the highest water resource level in the northeast with the agricultural potential, about 338,000 hectares of arable land and irrigated land. You will find that once we'll be able to utilize these irrigation facilities, we'll create a lot of employment opportunities to our youth. And that is one area we are going to address. And then lastly, I think, is to do with governance, both at the local government and at the state level. In ensuring that good governance, effective and coordination of governance activities so that you have very transparent public finance and public service management at the state and the local government, that the small resources at the disposal of the state and the local government can be effectively channeled to the development of the state. So that is one of the areas we have been addressing. So these are the 4 or 5 priority areas in respect to Yobe State. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think your last point on governance is extremely critical. And here I'm quoting you, you are talking about transparent governance practices. And I'm sure the UNDP folks in the room must be smiling because this is like music to their ears. But it's also music to our ears at the African Union as well. At this point, I would like to call on His Excellency Governor Ali Haruna, the Governor of the Hejalamis region from the Republic of Chad. Governor, please.
Merci. Par rapport face à ce défi, les solutions peuvent être envisagées sur le plan sécuritaire, économique et commerce transfrontalier. Je vais d'abord commencer par l'aspect sur le plan sécuritaire. Sur le plan sécuritaire, les pistes de solutions qui pourraient relever le défi et de contribuer à la stabilisation de nos provinces. Sur ce, il est souhaitable de renforcer les capacités des forces nationales de sécurité dans nos pays respectifs en matière logistique, moyens roulants, fluviaux, de transmission, de matériel de transmission. Et on ne voudrait pas beaucoup parler des armes, mais pour sécuriser une population, nos partenaires ne souhaiteraient pas qu'on parle beaucoup des armes. Mais pour assurer la sécurité des biens et des personnes, forcément, il faut des armements et des matériels spécifiques. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, avec la mondialisation, quand je parle de matériel spécifique, la zone du lac, s'il y a une très bonne volonté de part et d'autre de nos partenaires, en appuyant nos pays respectifs, je crois que nous pouvons battre facilement ces terroristes de Boko Haram. Les moyens sont là. Nos pays ont essayé de faire ce qu'ils peuvent. Et si les partenaires nous appuient, quelques pays amis peuvent nous appuyer, nous pouvons vraiment les effacer carrément du bassin de la Tchad. Donc c'est pour cela que moi j'aurais souhaité également qu'il y ait une synergie d'action entre les forces mixtes et les forces nationales. S'il y a une synergie, je crois que ça pourra aussi très très bien aider. Sur le plan sécurité, le trafic routier, puisqu'il y a des trafics routiers inter-États, il faudrait que ce trafic-là soit sécurisé. Nous avons également, depuis un certain temps, depuis ce phénomène que je dirais de Boko Haram, nous avons mis en place des comités locaux de vigilance dans nos provinces. Et ces comités de vigilance, nous les avons formés très rapidement. C'est une volonté qui s'est dégagée très rapidement par les habitants eux-mêmes, de part et d'autre. Malheureusement, ils ne sont pas très très bien formés ni équipés. Donc là également, si nous pouvons vraiment les équiper, ils n'ont pas besoin d'armes, mais des équipements juste avec du matériel pour permettre de vérifier tout ce qui entre dans les marchés, tout ce qui entre dans les lieux de culte. Et également des équipements peut-être que sous forme de radio où ils peuvent communiquer avec les forces de l'ordre. L'implication des chefs traditionnels et des leaders religieux. Chez nous, nous avons déjà commencé par une sensibilisation de proximité à travers les autorités administratives, les chefs religieux et les chefs traditionnels. Et c'est ce qui continue. Nous avons vraiment besoin de les appuyer dans ce sens afin qu'ils continuent la sensibilisation. À travers ces chefs religieux, beaucoup de choses peuvent changer. Nous avons également mis l'accent sur la cohabitation pacifique. Parce que vous savez, quand les gens quittent un pays à un autre pays, ou un village à un autre village, il est forcément nécessaire de beaucoup mettre l'accent sur la cohabitation pacifique. C'est là où les leaders religieux, les chefs traditionnels, les autorités administratives peuvent jouer un rôle important pour que ceux qui se sont retrouvés dans tel ou tel village puissent se sentir beaucoup plus à l'aise. Sur le plan économique, dans le souci de développer des activités économiques, moi je souhaiterais qu'il y ait de soutenir les productions agro-silvopastorales, la rétrocession des tracteurs, puisque beaucoup de ces réfugiés peuvent également labourer et la richesse est au sol. Si ces gens peuvent avoir des tracteurs, peuvent avoir du matériel d'agriculture, ils pourront travailler. Encourager également les filières porteuses telles que la gomme arabique, les spiruline, le sésame, la viande séchée, le poisson, etc. Créer des unités de transformation et de conservation des produits locaux. Soutenir les différents groupes vulnérables. Quand je dis les différents groupes, c'est les jeunes, les femmes. Amener les activités génératrices de revenus. Nous allons aborder le sujet commercial transfrontalier. Dans mon allocution de ce matin, je disais que nous sommes une province qui est voisine au Cameroun et que la province a une potentialité agro-silvopastorale, a certainement connu beaucoup de difficultés sur l'exportation du bétail. De ce fait, nous avons souhaité qu'il y ait un corridor, qu'on essaie de créer un corridor d'exportation des produits. Ces corridors devraient être sécurisés pour permettre à exporter ou même, voire même importer. C'est un corridor de sécurité, ça met en confiance les opérateurs économiques. C'est-à-dire, d'ici là, c'est pour voir également, c'est réorganiser également les circuits commerciaux afin de permettre la reprise des activités économiques entre les pays, surtout les pays voisins. Et pour ce qui est également de certaines provinces, c'est l'accès également au crédit à certains opérateurs économiques victimes de Boko Haram. Si nous pouvons les encourager à redémarrer leur activité à caractère commercial, ce sera une très bonne chose. Mais tout à l'heure, je disais qu'on ne peut pas vivre également sans un certain nombre d'infrastructures ou qu'il y a des pistes ruraux qu'il faut également aménager. Il faut assurer la santé de ces personnes et surtout ceux qui ont eu le courage de ne pas quitter leur résidence. Il faut les encourager à s'installer, c'est-à-dire créer des infrastructures telles que les centres de santé, des écoles et également des pistes de déplacement. Voilà ce que je peux apporter comme contribution, mais je sais que lors de ma déclaration de ce matin et à travers tout ce que mes collègues gouverneurs ont dit, toutes mes préoccupations et tout ce que nous comptons dire ont été dites dans leur intervention. Je vous remercie.
No, thank you very much, Governor Haroon. I think this brings us to my good brother, Professor Adam Shafadin, the governor of the Lake region. Professor, please.
Bien, merci. Mesdames, Messieurs, chers participants, je suis le gouverneur d'une province constamment attaquée par des actions terroristes qui conditionnent aujourd'hui le développement socio-économique de notre province. Donc, pour cette question précise, quelle est votre priorité? Je pense que la première priorité, c'est d'abord la sécurité des personnes et de leurs biens. La première priorité peut être la sécurité des personnes et de leurs biens, parce que la sécurité est la condition sine qua non pour tout développement. Aujourd'hui, les forces de défense et de sécurité intérieure et les forces mixtes multinationales sont entrées activement assurer la sécurité des personnes et de leurs biens en risquant leur vie sur le terrain, en faisant faire face à une guerre asymétrique d'où l'ennemi n'est pas forcément identifié. Pour arriver à bout de cette secte nébuleuse qui a des tentacules, qui a des ramifications partout, je pense qu'il faut que la population puisse participer activement à ces combats républicains. Parce que les premières victimes de cette guerre, c'est d'abord nos populations. La société civile et la population doivent participer, collaborer dans un élan de coopération civilo-militaire, partager des informations, donner des informations sur la mobilité de cet élément de Boko Haram à nos forces de défense et de sécurité et travailler ensemble pour éradiquer de façon totale cette secte. Je pense que pour que cette force interne comme les forces multinationales soit active, soit opérationnelle à tout moment, il faut équiper des moyens adéquats. Quand nous faisons face à une guerre asymétrique, il faut des équipements, il faut des armes adéquates. Je pense que des moyens de communication, des armes équipées de vision nocturne, l'expérience a montré que les éléments de Boko Haram interviennent et attaquent pendant la nuit, donc il faut nécessairement réadapter les équipements détenus par nos forces de défense et de sécurité. On est en train de vouloir éradiquer avec beaucoup d'engagement sous une coordination de la CVLT, la secte nébuleuse et pour assurer le développement socio-économique de nos provinces. Mais il faut faire face à cette question de gestion des repentis et des désengagés de Boko Haram. Si nous ne les gérons pas, ceux qui sont désengagés et qui nous regagnent, eh bien, ça va être un cycle répétitif. Ils reviennent, ils repartent de l'autre côté. Je pense que ce matin, nous avons demandé qu'il y ait l'opérationnalisation ou bien la mise en place du programme DDR pour pouvoir faire face à des désengagés et des repentis de Boko Haram qui viennent. Par exemple, les cas de la province du Lac. La mise en place de ces programmes n'est pas encore effective. Nous recevons avec la chefferie traditionnelle les repentis de Boko Haram. Nous mettons à la disposition, je dirais, la cellule multidisciplinaire. Une fois nous estimons que ces repentis est éligible, comme il n'y a pas une structure d'accueil, nous mettons à la disposition de sa communauté ou à la disposition de son chef de canton. Donc, de façon équitable, nous souhaiterions que la mise en place du programme DDR, ça fait partie de nos priorités. La deuxième priorité, nous voulons que le développement de notre économie provinciale, il faut redynamiser l'économie provinciale. Parce qu'avec la naissance inattendue de la secte nébuleuse, tous les circuits de l'écoulement de nos produits ont été obstrués. Il faut sécuriser, maintenant pour relancer l'économie, il faut sécuriser ces circuits. Il faut indemniser les opérateurs économiques qui ont été dépossédés de leurs biens. Il faut mettre, je dirais, des crédits ou des moyens à la disposition de ces opérateurs économiques pour que l'économie provinciale soit relancée pour assurer un décollage économique de notre province. De façon très rapide, je pense que la troisième priorité, améliorer l'accès équitable aux services de base. Vous avez constaté que là où il y a le terrorisme, il y a toujours la pauvreté. Là où il y a le terrorisme, il y a ce qu'on appelle analphabétisme, il y a l'ignorance. Donc, pour que le terrorisme ne se serve pas de ces terreaux fertiles, il faut effectivement qu'il y ait une éducation de base, un encadrement, une orientation des jeunes. Donc, nous sommes une province non seulement attaquée par des actions terroristes, mais nous sommes une province également fouettée par les effets néfastes du changement climatique. Donc, il y a forcément amélioré les services sociaux de base, l'éducation, l'eau potable, la santé. Vous avez constaté par la présentation que les infrastructures sanitaires qui sont situées dans la zone insulaire sont pratiquement une partie détruite, je dirais détruite par des actions terroristes. Donc il faut reconstruire ces infrastructures pour pouvoir mettre des soins de qualité à la disposition de nos populations qui sont citées dans ces zones. Troisième priorité, moi je pense que quatrième, hein, voilà. Il faut assurer une autonomisation des femmes et des jeunes. Parce que les femmes et les jeunes sont les deux entités qui sont victimes des actions terroristes. Mais en même temps, dans nos expériences quotidiennes de tous les jours, nous constatons que les femmes et les jeunes sont à la fois des acteurs dans des groupes terroristes. Parce que les terroristes de Boko Haram se servent des femmes et des jeunes pour actionner des attentats, pour faire des infiltrations dans certaines localités. Donc il faut gérer avec efficience et intelligence les deux entités. Pour que les deux entités ne soient pas des proies faciles à ces terroristes, il faut créer des conditions. Il faut les accompagner. Il faut autonomiser. Je pense que c'est très important. Je pense que pour répondre de façon pratique à cette question de sécurité et de développement dans la province du lac, nous avons mis sur pied des commissions pour élaborer, avec l'appui constant de nos partenaires, le PNUD et l'Union européenne, un document cadre. Un document qui prend en compte toutes les doléances, tous les besoins de nos concitoyens, de nos citoyens, de nos populations de la province. Ce document s'est inspiré effectivement du Plan national de développement. Donc ce document est intitulé Plan provincial de développement et de sécurité, qui aujourd'hui, qui est ici, le document est là, et c'est puis seulement ajuster ce document en intégrant les 9 piliers qui constituent la politique de stabilisation et de développement incarnée par la CVLT pour mettre à la disposition de nos partenaires. Donc, c'est pour vous dire que la province du lac attend impatiemment une mobilisation de fonds pour exécuter ce plan. Pour ce, je pense que merci infiniment pour votre attention.
So thank you very much, Excellency Governor. I think when we started, I think it's almost getting to an hour now, we started with the Governor of Borno to where our brother concluded now. We have covered a broad range of issues that you can see the similarities, you can see the commonalities in the priorities identified by the governors, whether it is about inclusivity in terms of the revitalization of these processes, rebuilding social cohesion, security came up, I think, in all the priorities. Governance came up in all the priorities. Empowering women and youth came up in all the priorities. I'm not going to attempt to really summarize what has been eloquently elaborated by the governors. So in order for us to make this slightly more interactive, we would now let the governors reflect on everything that they presented to you, but also give you an opportunity in the next just no more than 5 minutes to, if you have any specific comments or you have any specific questions for either all the governors or one of the governors, we'll encourage you not to ask all of them. But if you have any specific question for the governors, we'll be happy for the governors to respond to that. And then we'll move on to the next stage in order to ensure that this session is unique in the sense that it is very interactive. So at this point, I would say the floor is open, and I think I am sufficiently empowered also. If no one volunteers, I may volunteer one or two people perhaps to just add to the wisdom that we've already received from the governors. So the floor is open over the next 5 minutes. I see a hand here, Ibrahima, and then there is a hand at the extreme there. So let's start with our brother here, and then so Chika, and then Ibrahima, you bring the mic here, right in front, right here. Yes, monsieur.
Merci, monsieur. Moi, ce n'est pas en fait de questions, mais juste un peu un commentaire. Bon, d'abord, je me réjouis de la création de ce forum de gouverneurs, parce que c'est le gouverneur, en fait, étant les représentants des chefs d'État et de gouvernement, sont les premiers acteurs dans ce processus, et ils sont les plus souvent les plus interpellés. Ils ont une responsabilité politique, administrative et même sur le plan militaire. Donc vraiment, le gouverneur doit jouer un rôle important. Et pour cela, moi, je pense que dans la stratégie, il est important, du moment où ces zones attaquées par le terrorisme ont un statut particulier, parce qu'il y a des zones qui sont en état d'urgence, qu'on revoit un peu le statut aussi du gouverneur de ces régions concernées pour réussir un peu leur statut, leur donner certains pouvoirs spécifiques, rehausser leur capacité d'action, c'est-à-dire en termes de moyens d'action, et aussi voir leur possibilité d'agir sur des questions militaires. Parce que, je prends un exemple. Quand on dit, par exemple, collaboration civilo-militaire, dans un village X, on dit, bon, il y a 4 éléments de Boko Haram qui sont là, armés, et ils sont localisés. Et on informe le gouverneur. Mais le gouverneur doit avoir un pouvoir qui permet de dépêcher une mission sur le terrain pour aller vérifier, une mission militaire, bien sûr. Et je pense qu'actuellement, les forces militaires ne sont pas soumises aux ordres du gouverneur. Donc là, je pense qu'il y a des pouvoirs spécifiques qu'il faut donner forcément pour un temps provisoire à ces gouverneurs. Bon, maintenant, pour ce qui est de la stabilisation, on a parlé de la stabilisation et du renforcement économique. Bon, je suis entièrement d'accord avec ce que le gouverneur de Difa a dit, parce que la région du lac Tchad est une région vitale. C'est une région vitale pour tous les pays frontaliers, pour toutes les populations de ces zones. Les principales activités qui s'exercent, la pêche et l'agriculture, se font dans les lits du lac Tchad. Mais quand le lit du lac Tchad n'est pas occupé par des populations qui produisent, donc forcément, on ne peut pas faire la relance économique. Et quand les populations qui sont riveraines du lit du lac ne sont pas dans leurs villages respectifs, c'est-à-dire qu'ils n'arrivent pas à exercer leurs activités traditionnelles, ne peuvent rien produire. Actuellement, les gens sont dans des abris précaires. Et ils sont en insécurité permanente parce que même sur les sites des réfugiés ou les sites des déplacés, Boko Haram intervient pour faire des enlèvements. Donc quelqu'un qui est en persécuté en permanence ne peut rien faire de durable. Donc moi je pense que la stratégie, comme l'a dit le gouverneur du lac, les lits du lac Tchad, du côté en tout cas du Niger et du Nigeria, c'est vite. Du côté du Tchad, c'est occupé. Mais du côté du Nigeria et du Tchad et du Niger, par exemple, et c'est la partie la plus fertile, la plus stratégique, qui n'est pas ni administrativement ni militairement occupée par les forces des deux États. Et cette zone-là comment on appelle, est abandonnée entre les mains de Boko Haram, qui actuellement fait de l'agriculture et de l'élevage. Donc vraiment... D'accord, merci.
Thank you very much. May I really crave your indulgence for brevity, otherwise I will get into trouble with the governors. I gave them far more limited time, but I want to be invited. Yeah, it's working.
Ok, je vous remercie, mesdames et messieurs. Peut-être je vais commencer par me présenter. C'est Issa Moussa, le gouverneur de la région de Zander. Peut-être que depuis ce matin, l'assistance a constaté que tous mes collègues gouverneurs se sont succédés, chacun pour parler des problèmes qu'ils rencontrent au niveau de sa région. Il n'y a que le gouverneur de Zander qui n'a pas pu se prononcer et qui n'a rien dit. En fait, pourquoi? Parce que simplement, ma région, la région de Zander, partage avec l'ensemble de ces États fédérés et régions le bassin du lac Tchad. Mais j'ai la chance, et je m'en réjouis, de ce que ma région n'a pas été directement affectée par le problème de Boko Haram. Ce sont les raisons pour lesquelles, vous avez vu, je ne me suis pas prononcé par rapport à cela. Maintenant, pour revenir à mon intervention, j'ai été très sensible à l'intervention du gouverneur de, je ne sais pas si c'est l'extrême nord ou le nord du Cameroun. Figurez-vous, s'il vous plaît, un problème mené d'un groupuscule quelque part au Bornou a grossi pour déborder le Bornou, pour déborder le Nigeria et aujourd'hui poser un problème à 4 armées. Regardez l'armée du Nigeria seule même. Et ce problème aujourd'hui pose problème à l'ensemble des armées des 4 pays. C'est étonnant. Ce n'est pas normal, je trouve. Et je pense que si nous sommes y arrivés à là, ce que il y a notre priorité aujourd'hui, si nous voulons inverser la tendance, c'est de faire en sorte qu'on arrache à Boko Haram tous les territoires qu'elle occupe et partout où elle se trouve. Sinon, si nous ne le faisons pas, nous continuerons chaque année, chaque mois à nous réunir en experts, en gouverneurs, en ministres pour parler de la situation du lac Tchad et des problèmes qu'il connaît. C'est ça notre objectif, c'est ça la priorité pour nous. Regardez la coalition américano, je ne sais que dire. Elle s'est rendue compte que si jamais l'EI, l'armée islamique, possède un territoire au Proche-Orient, elle ne peut rien régler. Et c'est pourquoi elles se sont débrouillées pour faire en sorte qu'il faut que l'EI ne maîtrise aucun territoire. Et c'est ça qu'il nous faut faire ici. Sinon, regardez, depuis que nous avons constaté que les 4 armées se sont réunies pour pouvoir essayer de combattre Boko Haram, à un certain moment, nous avons tellement l'espoir qu'en 2 mois, 3 mois, les choses vont se terminer. Mais après, et ça s'arrête. Comme s'il y a un deal. Comme s'il y a un deal qui veut que Boko Haram ne doit pas se terminer. Et ce deal-là, c'est entre qui et qui? C'est étonnant, s'il vous plaît. C'est étonnant. Et c'est pourquoi moi je dis dans la mise en œuvre de cette priorité, nous devrons nous assumer. C'est-à-dire nous, les 4 États-là. Nous devrons faire en sorte, comme je l'ai dit, parce que je pense qu'aujourd'hui, nous avons les hommes, nous avons les moyens de faire en sorte que nous puissions arracher ces territoires à Boko Haram, maintenant attendre les partenaires pour nous aider à stabiliser la zone. Je pense que chacun a son devoir. Nous avons un devoir de faire en sorte que débarrasser la zone de Boko Haram et les partenaires, eux, vont nous aider à stabiliser, à accompagner toutes les casses collatérales que nous aurons faites par rapport justement à la gestion de cette situation. Je pense que c'est cela le débat. Sinon, ne tournons pas autour du pot. Nous connaissons le problème. S'il y a un deal, qu'on nous le dise, s'il vous plaît. Le cas échéant, allons-y à la tâche. Je vous remercie.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci, the governor of Zinder. I think I had seen, are you standing down? I would be happy if you were to say yes. But you promised to keep it very, very petite.
I understand you promised to keep it extremely short. So we'll come into you.
Yes, so we'll have just two.
Merci beaucoup. C'est juste pour relever vraiment toute la pertinence des priorités qui ont été définies ici. Et pendant quelques années, nous sommes sur ce dossier donc, de reconstruction dans le bassin. Je suis du cabinet du Premier ministre, la secrétaire exécutive de la stratégie pour le développement et la sécurité des zones sahéliennes. Donc, mais je pense que une des priorités, à mon avis, ça a été effleuré, il faut qu'on mette un peu de l'ordre sur le plan programmatique. Et il y a la stratégie de stabilisation et les questions maintenant d'élaborer des plans d'action territoriaux qui doivent être cohérents avec les plans, les cadres stratégiques locaux et régionaux établis. Et c'est une très bonne chose, mais il y a aussi des mécanismes, si vous voulez, donc de financement. Parce que ni les maires, ni les gouverneurs, ni les préfets n'ont la maîtrise donc des actions de développement et des actions humanitaires de leur entité. Et fort heureusement, nous avons une initiative avec la Banque mondiale et avec un volet de renforcement des capacités de coordination, de concertation, surtout des maîtrises d'ouvrage. Je crois que ça, c'est un point qui est très important, qui est important aussi. Mais bon, tous ces priorités-là, c'est-à-dire qui ont pour objectif de renforcer cette gouvernance, un peu du soft, quoi, des actions, et c'est très bon, c'est bon. Mais je pense qu'il y a aussi les besoins immédiats. C'est-à-dire que les actions quick wins, c'est-à-dire que vraiment à effet impact immédiat, là, ils ont fait leur preuve. Et dans la partie ouest, dans le Luptako, ça et là, et pour les jeunes et les femmes, moi je pense que ça doit être la priorité des priorités. La priorité des priorités. Après, on revient à tous ces soft-là. Et troisièmement, moi je pense que sur le plan de la politique macro, tel que ça a été évoqué, et en tout cas mettre toutes ces actions militaires engagées dans le Sahel et dans le bassin de lac Tchad, vraiment sous le chapitre 7, de manière à impliquer les Nations Unies, c'est une très bonne chose. Et aussi encourager les aides budgétaires de manière à financer de manière indirecte la sécurité à travers les aides budgétaires non ciblées. Merci.
Thank you very much.
So who's next?
Now, we are only having two on this side, unfortunately. I think it's the first time I heard somebody call him earlier Imam Pastor. So I think we'll go with the Imam Pastor. There is a lady at the back.
Yeah, a bit of gender balance, probably.
So we take the Imam Pastor, the lady, and then the gentleman, then we close the floor.
Je pense qu'on va garder ça très bref, comme ça nous permettra de revenir vers le gouverneur.
Thank you very much. I think my submission goes straight to the governor of Borno State. During your presentation, you make reference to two important issues of saying, one, today some of our camps are becoming like a baby factory. You have the level of prostitution is getting higher. But there's one important element I just want you to make comment on, and the issue of civilian JTF. The civilian JTFs are just a time bomb that in the next level, these are much youth which you know better than I do about what mechanism, what do you have in place to deal with this particular phenomenon that is so huge and is a threat that is just lying at the corner. Apart from civilian JTF, in other regions we have the issue of uncoordinated, unorganized vigilantes in every communities. What are some of you doing about this? What do you have in plan on this? And finally, to go with that, is all of you are silent on the issue of recharge of Lake Chad. The issue of recharging Lake Chad. I don't hear any of you making comment on it. Is it not part of your own special agenda? Or you are thinking at what level are you really going to engage with the issue of recharging of the Lake Chad to create more opportunities for more youth to be engaged in terms of getting something to do, just as the governor from LAC region said.
Well, thank you. Extremely short and to the point. Mr. Moderator, you have a last intervention, or that's it?
No, we have the lady. I promised that we'll give her the floor.
Yes, a bit of gender balance here.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Hawa Mukaila, President, founder of the Global Network for Niger. And I just heard something that is very preoccupying. So deal or no deal, I would like to simply say that it's very preoccupying to realize that there is a major issue when we think about women and the youth as victims, and yet to flip it back to realize that they are actually actors. And dear gentlemen, if you could actually elaborate on that issue, it would be very, very interesting to know more. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Chika. The gentleman here by the camera has been waiting for the longest time, and then we close the floor, unfortunately. And please, brother, keep it as brief as possible.
Thank you very much. My name is Comrade Dauda Muhammad Gombe from Northeast Nigeria, precisely Yobe State. My question goes to all the governors here. As a young person concerned, whom we have been considered as key players or key actors in this activity, almost all of you have talked about youth empowerment, women empowerment. We have been having empowerment for the past long times of youth empowerment in terms of skills and other things. Those are traditional empowerment that keep not yielding positive results. What are those empowerment that you are talking in this contemporary time, more especially in terms of technology, in terms of youth inclusion in governance and other things? I need more clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, Excellencies, we've had a very excellent round of interventions from the floor. And the final one by the youth. We've been talking about the youth since this morning. So finally, someone who describes himself as a youth has decided to take the floor, and he has posed a question. So there are three critical questions that I think these questions are applicable to all the governors. And what we are going to do now, I'm not going to name the governors. So we'll start with the governor of Borno, and then we go down the line. The first question is, what are your plans to address the civilian JTFs, which someone has described as potential time bombs? Why are all of you silent on the recharging of the lake, which we know could be a game changer? And then, considering the disparity of the policies and some of the national priorities and the resources between and amongst the four countries, what, in your view, needs to be done in order to ensure a sense of coherence, a sense of harmonization, and in terms of really synchronizing the various interventions across the country, so you avoid a loop-sided approach where there are better policies and programs that are better funded in one country and that is not reflected in the other, which could potentially take us back to square one. So at this point, I think with these three questions, the various governors, I'll say we give 3 minutes each, so you use this as your opportunity for your closing statements. So you address these three questions, and if there is anything else that you need to add as a closing remark, we'll appreciate that. So I start with my brother here, the governor of Borno State.
Thank you very much. That question of civilian JTF, in Borno State, the civilian JTF has been institutionalized. We have a legal framework governing the conduct and operations of the civilian JTF. And therefore, we don't have any threat. I can't say we don't have any threat, but we are very mindful. The framework will address all these issues. While on the issue of the uncoordinated activities of the hunters, our law also encompasses the hunters. The civilian JTF/vigilante law that has been duly passed by the National State House of Assembly, of which we are privy to have the Speaker and about 10 members of the House of Assembly in Borno State here in this chamber. On the issue of the Lake Chad Basin, recharging, while we have mentioned this one in the morning, we were asked to present 4 basic problems that it requires immediate attention. Lake Chad Basin is very important. We have highlighted the need for recharging the Lake Chad Basin this morning, but this should be looked into as a medium-term and long-term solutions, while the current four problems that have been highlighted by us are temporary measures, are immediate stabilization measures. While on the issue of the youth, you are right. A lot have been said about the youth. But particularly in Borno State, we want to key in to technical and vocational education. Looking at my 10-point agenda, I specifically highlighted the need for inculcating technical and vocational educational system in our own programs, of which we have started. And since you are very close to us, I think in the near future, you can understand whether we are doing something good or wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor, and our brother from DIFA.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais aussi commencer avec cette question sur l'autonomisation des jeunes. C'est que c'est exactement, en tout cas au niveau de la région de Difa, pour ne pas dire au Niger, il y a une politique nationale en matière, en tout cas, de prise en charge de la jeunesse. Et la politique s'appuie essentiellement sur la formation professionnelle et aussi la formation classique, traditionnelle, donc l'enseignement et l'éducation. Mais la priorité, surtout en ce qui concerne l'emploi des jeunes, est beaucoup plus orientée, en tout cas, vers la formation professionnelle, tout azimut. Il y a des centres de formation des métiers qui ont été créés dans l'ensemble des 267 communes du Niger. Chacune est dotée d'un centre de formation des métiers et il y a des lycées aussi technologiques qui ont été construits un peu partout. Au niveau de la région de Difa, comme l'a fait remarquer quelqu'un ici ce matin, il y a un centre de formation, en tout cas un lycée technologique de niveau national. C'est pratiquement le seul donc, qui est actuellement en construction. Et il y a là toutes les filières qui, à terme, en tout cas, pourraient déboucher sur des emplois aux jeunes, notamment la pétrochimie, etc., puisque, comme vous savez, le pétrole est extrait dans la région de Difa. Donc, le lycée technologique est actuellement construit, ou presque en tout cas achevé, et ce lycée, c'est un lycée vraiment de niveau national et même sous-régional. Donc, pour la jeunesse, c'est vraiment essentiellement beaucoup plus la création d'emplois et la formation professionnelle. En ce qui concerne la question de la police civile, nous, malheureusement, nous n'en connaissons pas, nous n'en avons pas. Nous avons en son temps, en tout cas au temps d'une rébellion que nous avons connue ici au Niger, eu ce genre, en tout cas des communautés qui se sont en tout cas transformées en vigiles et pour se constituer en vigiles. Donc ça, au niveau de nos textes réglementaires, ça ne passe pas. Et c'est pour ça que les comités de vigilance, c'est vrai, on les a, mais c'est vraiment dans un cadre purement informel. Il n'y a pas de cadre formel pour ces comités de vigilance. Ils ne sont pas constitués de façon formelle. Mais tout de même, la sensibilisation porte sur cela. Pour aller un peu donner une toute petite réponse au ministre conseiller spécial du président de la République, M. Issa Lamine, effectivement, il y a un problème au niveau des FDS. Vous savez, la force multinationale mixte qui a été mise en place, en tout cas au Niger, elle a absorbé l'essentiel des forces de défense et de sécurité. Au niveau de la région, le gouverneur devrait, en principe, disposer de la gendarmerie, de la garde nationale. La police, ce n'est pas un problème, c'est au niveau des villes. Mais il se trouve que la FMM est constituée pour l'essentiel de ses forces. Donc, vous, gouverneur, vous avez une emprise seulement sur les responsables de la gendarmerie, de la garde, etc. Quand vous allez les solliciter pour une intervention, ils n'ont pas suffisamment en tout cas, d'éléments. Tous sont déployés par la FMM. Même s'il y a une position à côté d'un problème, vous ne pouvez pas instruire la FMM parce que la FMM, en tout cas, elle a un niveau régional. Donc là, ça c'est vraiment un problème, mais je suis sûr et certain qu'au niveau, en tout cas, national, avec tous les recrutements qu'il y a, nous aurons en tout cas bientôt suffisamment d'éléments au niveau de ces forces-là et on peut les faire intervenir surtout pour, en tout cas, prendre en charge des questions de conflits ou des petits cas de banditisme. Par rapport au gouverneur de la région de Difa, ça vraiment, nous sommes tout à fait d'accord avec lui que, avant tout, je l'avais dit tout à l'heure, les préalables pour nous, il faut sécuriser. Mais on ne peut pas envisager un retour s'il n'y a pas, en tout cas, de sécurité pour les populations. Donc il faut qu'à ce niveau, qu'on s'assure que Boko Haram n'occupe plus un espace, c'est évident. Maintenant, parler des deals, ça c'est vraiment une question assez pointue, sur laquelle je crois qu'on ne peut pas se prononcer. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll start with the youth empowerment, maybe because I'm younger, so I'll start with that. As far as I know, the youth empowerment program in my state is part and parcel of the education system. The vocational technical colleges are being resuscitated. Actually, in the state, we have about 9 of the best skill acquisition centers in the whole of northern Nigeria. I can mention that. Enough skills are being run in those centers, and we call them marketable skills. They are in areas that we are certain that any graduate of those schools, if given the support of finance takeoff, would be able to set up a business of his own and run his life. Civilian JTF, hunters, vigilante. Currently, yes, we're using the hunters and vigilante under the coordination of the military for securing the areas. In the state, actually, we have two main factions of this vigilante and hunters. So what we've done is keep everybody in his territory. Fortunately, they are one is in the southern zone, another is in the northern zone. So we have divided the state into 2 and given each side his territory, working under the command of the military. Just 2 weeks ago, screening and profiling of members of each group was concluded for them to be able to work under the military and under the current circumstance. Our hope is that the federal government perfects the state police mechanism or policy before the end of the insurgency. Should we get out of it, then we have a certain category of individuals who have the basic training of policing and also territorial defense to be able to metamorphose into the state police. For us, this is what we are looking at. On the issue of recharging Lake Chad, my belief is this forum is actually looking at stabilizing or stabilization after the conflicts. Agreed. The receding waters, or what we call the land resource issues, are also basic drivers of the conflict. But for recharging Lake Chad, For me, I'm aware the federal government has a different body looking at it, and that is why we have downplayed it in this forum. It's a bigger issue that is also being taken at another level, that is cross-border cutting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I would like to start with the civilian JTF. In Yobe State, we don't have civilian JTF, but we have the hunters. And the hunters work together with the Nigerian Army. They are being profiled. They are being profiled by the Nigerian Army, and they work with the Nigerian Army. So we don't have civilian JTF. In respect to the youth empowerment, we have started a program of, first of all, getting the actual data of our youth that are unemployed. That is the first step we have started. A website is going to be open very soon. And all those, especially from the diploma holders, graduates, HND holders, all this will have to, profile themselves and let's get the data first. But we have started a program even before that one, pending the issue of getting the data. We are taking 3 issues. One is agriculture. Agriculture, we have an irrigation program in various locations in the state. Those who are interested to go into agriculture, into livestock, into forestry, into fishery, they will be profiled and they will be given the necessary support so that they will take up the employment. The other issues for the entrepreneurship training, there are those who have already been had some education. They can be profiled, they can be provided with basic education in entrepreneurship. They will be linked with the various financial institutions like the Bank of Industry on other issues, which they have, all these issues, they have agreed with a very low interest rate to support those people who are interested in this type of entrepreneurship. And thirdly, there are those, especially in the secondary school level, who will go into vocational training, who will be trained on various aspects of training like carpentry, like joinery, like whatever, all these issues of training, basic skills acquisition, which is being provided. And I'm happy the UNDP has been supporting this institution through this aspect of recent, and over about 1,000, between 500 to 1,000 have already been trained and be provided with the set of capital for them to continue. So both the government and all the development partners can keen into those areas, especially agriculture, as I mentioned, entrepreneurship training for those who have reached a certain level of education will be supported with some basic capital for them to progress, and then for the skill acquisition training. In respect to the Lake Chad, it has been mentioned both by His Excellency the Governor of Borno and then the Governor of Adamawa. It's an issue which we felt that it is a bit medium and long term. With this, an issue which is we are discussing is immediately after the stabilization. We know that the Lake Chad is a basic. It is very, very important for once it is being recharged, it will go to provide more employment. The Lake Chad has shrunk from its original size to not less than now 5% of its original size. It's too small. Water is not available. That has created a lot of environmental degradation in that particular area. So by recharging it, it will assist greatly in providing employment opportunities. But the government is taking up at the local level, and it has been in discussion for a longer period of time now by the Bureau agent because of the size and the amount required for the discharge. So, but it is very, very important, and we saw that it is important for once we are discussing of the short term, it has to be left aside. But it is very, very important that it has to be noted in the discharge of the Lake Chad. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother.
Bien, merci. Ce problème jeune, comme on vient de le dire, il est identique à tous les pays. Mes prédécesseurs l'ont dit. Le Cameroun ne fait pas exception. Les jeunes sont la frange la plus vulnérable. Et là, à la merci de tous les aléas. C'est pour cela que la nébuleuse a porté, l'a ciblée. Mais les pouvoirs publics ont...
Apologies, that is Ibrahima's way of policing my activities here. Continue, Excellency Governor, please.
C'est fini? C'est fini? Si c'est fini, c'est fini.
No, sir, it's not finished. It was just Ibrahim trying to alert me. We can continue, Governor.
Peut-être que c'est la pause café qui s'annonce comme ça. Hein?
Merci.
D'accord, merci. Je disais que le problème n'est pas particulier. Il existe au Cameroun. C'est pour ça que le Boko Haram a vite fait de cibler cette frange, parce qu'elle est vulnérable, un peu inconsciente. Et à cela, quand s'ajoute le phénomène de consommation de la drogue, de tramol et tramadol, vous comprenez que le cocktail, il est molotov. Mais au Cameroun, des dispositions ont été prises pour l'encadrement de cette jeunesse. Mais il y a également que nous constatons que la base, la pyramide, aujourd'hui, si c'est le taux de croissance, le taux de natalité est très élevé. Je prendrai pour un exemple très simple. Pour parler de... Nous avons un cas précis des réfugiés qui sont à Minawao. Ce n'est pas pour taquiner mon collègue de Borno. Nous avons 66 000 réfugiés nigérians à Minawao. Mais le taux de natalité dans ces camps par semaine, c'est de 70 à 80. Je le dis ici sous le contrôle de l'ambassadeur, Mme Khadija qui était là. Elle connaît très bien. 50 naissances par semaine, mais en période de pluie, pendant les mois d'août et septembre, l'aiguille peut monter à 100. Nous avons demandé qu'on dote ces centres de téléviseurs, écrans géants pour essayer d'occuper les hommes. C'était pour vous dire un peu le taux de natalité au Cameroun. Les enfants, ils sont nombreux. L'État fait ce qu'il peut pour leur encadrement, mais tel que les gens se reproduisent, il y a un petit débordement. Mais quand cela ne tient, les SAR, ce que nous appelons SAR, le centre des petits métiers, ça existe pratiquement dans tous les villages. Les lycées techniques, les centres d'apprentissage des métiers, même à Minawao, l'État, comme à l'accoutumée, a mis des centres. Les gens apprennent la couture, la menuiserie, la maçonnerie et tout ce qu'on peut apprendre. Donc, pour faciliter l'insertion le plus rapidement, je crois que c'est de cette manière qu'au Cameroun, le problème a été vu pour très rapidement que les gens luttaient contre le chômage, mais luttaient contre également ces banditismes galopants. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Governor.
Bien, merci. C'est un sujet qui revient très toujours, surtout la jeunesse. Et pour mon pays, le Tchad, je crois que nous ne pouvons pas également dire que nous n'échangeons pas sur ce sujet. D'abord, le gouvernement, dans nos différentes provinces, surtout dans ma province, a fait déjà quelques efforts, ainsi que les partenaires. Je vous dirais que je donnerai un exemple, que ce soit au niveau de l'UNICEF, que ce soit au niveau du Suède, qui ont toujours accompagné le gouvernement tchadien dans nos différentes provinces, ont mis l'accent sur la formation de ces jeunes, les jeunes de deux sexes, les filles comme les garçons. Donc, il y a beaucoup de formations qui se font et compte tenu du nombre de jeunes, je crois que ce n'est pas encore suffisant. C'est pourquoi nous avons tout à l'heure, dans nos allocutions, dit qu'il fallait continuer à créer des écoles, continuer à former pour que ces jeunes puissent avoir des activités génératrices de recettes. Je donnerai aussi quelques exemples. Même sur le plan couture, électricité, mécanique, beaucoup ont été faits. Mais je disais aussi qu'ils sont très très nombreux, ces jeunes-là. Il faut les occuper, il faut les former. Donc c'est là où nous avons toujours souhaité que les partenaires puissent toujours nous accompagner pour occuper ces jeunes, pour qu'ils ne puissent pas s'adonner à l'alcool, aux drogues ou ensuite à suivre les sectes Boko Haram. Donc en ce qui concerne les eaux dans le lac Tchad, c'est un sujet qui a duré très très longtemps, que nos pays respectifs continuent à échanger. Et je crois que c'est une décision à un certain niveau. Donc nous allons certainement, le mois venu, avoir des éclaircissements avec notre organisation sous-régionale, qui est la CBT qui gère ces affaires. Et que je crois qu'avec nos États respectifs, pour avoir des éclaircissements à quand nous pouvons avoir suffisamment de eaux. Est-ce que ces eaux viendront de l'Ubangi-Chari ou du Congo, pour qu'au moins le lac Tchad soit renfloué et que ça puisse également maintenir tous les jeunes et les hommes et les femmes à cultiver tout au long du lac Tchad. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Governor.
Bien, merci beaucoup. On ne devrait pas grand-chose à ajouter. Vous savez qu'en principe, on parle la même voix. Lorsque vous avez déjà écouté l'extrême nord, le nord est sur la même lancée. Mais je voudrais ajouter quelque chose, surtout parlant de ces jeunes. Les jeunes, c'est un peu comme la fondation d'une maison. Si vous voulez construire quelque chose de solide, il faut faire attention. Qui plus est, nous sommes à côté d'un lac, c'est-à-dire c'est une terre mouillée. Le terrain est assez délicat. Si vous faites une maison sur un marécage et que vous ne prenez pas les précautions de faire une fondation profonde, la maison va s'écrouler. C'est une image. Pour ne pas décourager les partenaires qui ont la bonne volonté de faire dans la stabilisation. Il faut dire qu'au-delà des activités génératrices de revenus, l'État camerounais a même pensé aussi développer les infrastructures sportives. Parce que nous avons aussi remarqué que le sport est non seulement un facteur d'intégration, de brassage, mais aussi peut créer une activité pour intéresser les jeunes. Dans la plupart des localités, au-delà des structures de santé, des écoles, à chaque école, on met des structures sportives pour aussi engranger une plus-value en matière de formation des futurs athlètes. Mais, et je reviens toujours là-dessus, je voudrais saluer l'intervention de mon collègue de Zender tout à l'heure, pour lui dire, et lui, effectivement, il nous a compris, que tout ce qu'on essaie de faire là, si on ne fait pas attention de nettoyer au Kachère le lac, on va tourner en rond. Il faut mètre par mètre, bosquet par bosquet, élément par élément, neutraliser ces vandales et ces criminels. En dépit de ce que les autres peuvent penser, ou alors de ceux qui entretiennent cela. C'est très important sur ce que je vous dis. Parce que la stabilisation qui a commencé chez nous a d'abord permis de repousser l'ennemi au-delà des frontières du Cameroun. Au moment où nous vous parlons, aucun centimètre carré du Cameroun n'est occupé par Boko Haram. C'est pour cela qu'on vous parle de la mise en place d'un certain nombre d'activités d'accompagnement. Et nous voulons donc par solidarité parce que nous sommes solidaires. Et nous devons faire cette solidarité. Elle n'est pas seulement verbale, elle doit être agissante. Quand le voisin, la maison du voisin brûle, vous ne pouvez pas faire la fête. Vous devez tout faire pour chercher un seau d'eau pour essayer d'aller éteindre. Parce que si sa maison brûle, la vôtre également va prendre feu. Voilà le message qu'il faut comprendre. C'est pourquoi je n'ai pas voulu développer les problèmes de sécurité. Ceux qui nous connaissent dans l'action doivent comprendre que nous ne faisons pas d'état d'âme quand il s'agit de la sécurité.
Thank you very much.
Merci. La conclusion de la journée, moi, je vais tout simplement dire que parmi les interventions qui sont faites, nous ont permis de connaître que la première priorité, moi, je pense que c'est l'éradication complète de Boko Haram dans le bassin du lac Tchad. Et pour éradiquer Boko Haram, moi je pense que nous connaissons entre nous, nous connaissons les bases de Boko Haram, se trouvent dans quel pays, dans quelle localité, nous les connaissons très bien. Il suffit seulement qu'il y ait des actions militaires conjointes pour aller les déguerpir et récupérer cette place-là, comme quelqu'un l'a dit tout à l'heure, progressivement. Ça, je pense que c'est la condition sine qua non. Tout à l'heure, les présentations ont permis également de connaître et déceler qu'il y a des situations humanitaires inquiétantes dans le pays des bassins du lac Tchad. Moi, je pense qu'il appartient maintenant à nos partenaires qui sont ici. S'ils veulent intervenir, apporter leur soutien pour l'humanité, pour l'Afrique et pour les bassins du lac Tchad, c'est le moment. Je pense que c'est maintenant ou jamais. Pour l'éducation des jeunes, nous avons dit tout à l'heure que le terrorisme ne se combat pas seulement sur un terrain militaire. Il faut l'encadrement de ces jeunes, il faut la formation de ces jeunes, il faut l'orientation de ces jeunes. En éduquant ces jeunes, en formant, nous allons combattre ce qu'on appelle l'extrémisme violent et la radicalisation. Parce que l'extrémisme violent et la radicalisation aboutissent à créer du terrorisme. Moi, je pense que pour combattre ça, il faut qu'on gère nos écoles avec efficience, nos mosquées, nos centres d'apprentissage coranique et le plus attendu encore, nos maisons d'arrêt sont des cellules dormantes de recrutement et de radicalisation. Voilà, je pense que sur ce, il faut qu'il y ait une coopération agissante. Parce que la réponse première à cette question, à cette crise, moi je pense que c'est la coopération régionale. Actuellement, nous sommes en train de faire des cavaliers seuls. En dehors des forces multinationales, moi je pense que parmi nos pays, il n'y a pas une coopération active. Cette coopération, pour le moment, elle est beaucoup plus terne. Mais pour rendre active, il faut qu'il y ait des contacts permanents entre les gouverneurs, des communications entre les gouverneurs, échange d'informations entre nos services de sécurité, nos services de renseignement. Je pense que c'est extrêmement important et c'est la réponse à cette crise de Boko Haram. Merci.
Excellencies, can we have a slightly more energetic applause for the 8 governors? I think they've done a fabulous job, and I'm the only moderator who's been standing here for the past almost 2 hours now. I'm not going to ask for a round of applause, but what I'm going to, I think earlier I said to you this is the most important session, and I feel vindicated. Quite frankly, what I'm going to do now, which might get me into a bit of trouble, but it's okay, Dr. Chambers is here, he will take me back to Dakar, is to do a very bad summary of what the priorities as outlined by the governors. There are, at least in my view, 10 key priorities that I can zero in on, and these are priorities that you can find in all the 4 countries. Number 1 was security. I think each and every one of the governors articulated on the question of security. There was no doubt that security, the nexus between peace, security, and development needs to be deepened, and as we develop the territorial action plans, that is extremely important. Number two is the need for an inclusive and a participatory approach to our governance processes in the region going forward. So in other words, the governance will have to be reflective of the wishes and aspirations of the people in the region. The third area that I think was an area of commonality was on the question of food security. Agriculture, I think all the governors raised the question of agriculture as a priority, and a priority that in their view will feed to the next priority, which is the empowerment of women, youth in the region. And we have our brother here who classified himself as a youth. We have to assess that. And to say if we are to be responsive to the challenges, we have to address the questions of women and youth in the region. The fifth point that I think came out very clearly, and there was no contestation over this one, was the question of how do we create safe environments so people can return to the places that they've been displaced from. So the returnees will have secure environments in order to be able to resume their social lives. The sixth point, in my view, is the question of how do we then have peaceful coexistence. These are societies that had coexisted for quite some time. It has been disrupted over the past 10 years, and there was a clear articulation by each and every one of the governors in their own different ways that we needed to reflect on this question of peaceful coexistence. The restoration of livelihoods, I think reconstruction was prioritized by all the governors, and I don't think I'm misrepresenting them. Even if I'm misrepresenting them, unfortunately, they have no opportunity now to object, but we are going to include that in the communique. The eighth major area that they all talked about was the rebuilding of basic infrastructure. I think we heard about the military in Cameroon. They are teaching in schools, and the kids are actually performing even better than when they were taught by civilians. This is my own interpretation of it. But just to say healthcare, roads, clinics, and other facilities, educational facilities, will have to be rebuilt in the region in order for us to be able to move forward. And then there was a critical point on the role of traditional and religious leaders in ensuring that not only are we able to prevent the kind of violent extremism that has gripped the region over the past 10 years, so we need to pay attention and focus on how we can use these traditional and religious leaders in order to ensure that the issue of violent extremism is critically addressed. I think there was an issue that was talked about, and if there are any economists in the room, there was a lot of talk about vocational training. I come from Sierra Leone, where at the end of the war, we trained a lot of people, but what we didn't do, we didn't address the market side of it. So you train me to be a plumber, you train me to be a carpenter, you train me to be whatever you've trained me in, the market is not there to absorb me. So what are the mechanisms, governors, as you go back, that you are putting in place in order to ensure that the skills that you are providing are actually matched with the market that exists in the region and in your respective countries? The final point that for me I think was extremely important was when the governors were asked about the question of the recharging of the lake. And I think the response there was also unanimous, that yes, the 4 priorities or 5 priorities that they presented were based on the question, the way we framed the question here for the conversation, that the recharging of the lake is an absolute priority, but it is a priority that will be dealt with in the medium to long term. Excellencies, governors, ladies and gentlemen, this will be my very bad summary of the priorities that have been presented by the governors. But as the governors resume their normal seats, I would like you once again to join me for a solid round of applause to thank my good brothers here as they take back their seat. Thank you very much. And at this point, I hand it over to Ibrahima, who I notice can be a bit of a dictator, so we may need to have a word with him after this session. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, turns out to be I'm a very friendly dictator, so. Can I ask you to give a big round of applause to our moderator for a very good, bad summary? And of course, a big round of applause to our governors for being absolutely forthcoming, to the point, and also be able to really educate all of us about the priorities of the region. And I really think that was a session that is extremely passionate, but also a session that is extremely useful to what we're doing. So as the governor takes the seat, we're going to continue our journey. As I mentioned to you this morning, the journey started with an update in terms of what took place since the last forum in 2018, to make sure everybody is up to speed of the progress we have made so far, but also make sure we understand there's some challenges ahead of us. The second part of our journey was what you heard, to make sure that we're actually addressing the concern and the needs of the governors. And I think you will agree with me, that session was extremely informative and making sure this is a demand-driven exercise as opposed to be a supply-driven exercise. Now, last but not least, all of this needs to be supported with resources, money. And that is why I'm delighted to actually introduce our next moderator, the UNDP Nigeria resident representative. His name is Mohammed Yahya. And Mohammed will take us through something which is extremely important, is the stabilization facility. So give him a big round of applause as he takes over as our moderator.
Thank you very much. So this is the third and last session of the day, and it's the session where we will be discussing the regional stabilization facility. The facility itself, you'll hear from my colleague on what the facility will do, but is essentially a key component of delivering the regional stabilization strategy. A small component, but a key component of delivering that strategy, which you will hear. It's never easy to follow my brother from the AU, especially with his name starting with Al-Hajj, but I'll try as much as possible to match his skills. But I do not intend to stand here for 2 hours. So this session, luckily, is only for 40 minutes. With that, I will invite my colleague, our resident representative from Chad, to give a 5-minute presentation on what the facility is about, so that most of you know exactly what it will do and where the focus of the work will be. Carol, over to you.
Thank you, Mo. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, distingués invités, en vos grades, rang et qualité, tout protocole observé, bon après-midi. Je crois que depuis ce matin, on a beaucoup entendu, et pendant les 5 prochaines minutes, l'honneur m'échoit de vous faire cette petite présentation sur la facilité de stabilisation. Mais pour rester dans la logique de ce qu'on fait depuis ce matin, je vais faire la présentation en anglais. So I hope you don't mind. Let me highlight, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that in the package that everyone has received, there is a 2-page pamphlet which you will find on the regional stabilization facility. So what I'm going to do is just in the next 5 or 6 slides, just skim over the most important traits of what this facility is about. In terms of the context, I think all of the presentations that we have heard up to this point have highlighted that the security situation around the Lake Chad area is not improving. And we have mentioned a protracted humanitarian crisis that has become entrenched. It's also recognized that while important, security responses alone are insufficient to win the peace in this region. The conflict is an ideological struggle, and the only viable response is a stabilization approach that promotes the legitimacy of the state and rebuilds the social contract between states and the communities across the region. This is actually at the core of what we have been talking about up to this point. It is really about rebuilding, re-strengthening the social contract between states and the communities that belong to those 4 countries across the Lake region. The regional stabilization strategy, as we have also heard already, is an expression of regional consensus and provides an integrated approach to address the root causes of the problem. Led by the Lake Chad Basin Commission with support from the African Union, the strategy was approved in August 2018 and endorsed by the African Union Peace and Security Council in December 2018. This has also been stressed earlier today. The strategy has 9 pillars covering humanitarian and development and proposes action at the local, national, and regional level, including a cross-border dimension, because this is an issue which crosses boundaries. UNDP has set up the Regional Stabilization Facility to support the implementation of the Regional Stabilization Strategy of the LCBC. And this is a key step in establishing regional ownership and a cross-border framework for the resolution of the crisis that we see across the region. The facility itself has 2 components. Specific Objective 1 is immediate stabilization, and this will focus on strengthening community security, essential basic infrastructure, and livelihood and employment opportunities. The other side is extended stabilization, which will strengthen the regional architecture required for the implementation of the Regional Stabilization Strategy, including support to the Lake Chad Basin Commission, development of territorial action plans, which we have heard about in the previous session, and strengthen regional and cross-border cooperation. We see these, the immediate and extended stabilization, as 2 sides of the same coin, so that as we start immediate stabilization, we lay the foundation to start addressing the root causes of vulnerabilities in the region. The next slide is a more visual representation of the linkage between the strategy and the facility, as well as the components of the facility. Under immediate stabilization, we are referring to basic infrastructure, small roads, small markets, and so on. Social cohesion and governance, mostly to promote community security, livelihood and employment with a focus on youth and women. In the previous session, somebody actually remarked to me that there was a question on women which went unanswered. So I just wanted to highlight that we are looking at youth and women not just as vulnerable groups, but as agents of change. Under extended stabilization, we are aiming to support implementation of the Regional Stabilization Strategy, laying a foundation for longer-term action to address the 9 pillars in the strategy. The picture that you see in the northwest corner is what UNDP in Nigeria has done in a village called Ngwom, and I apologize if I'm not saying this right, in Maiduguri, under its stabilization initiative. Basically, UNDP has rebuilt homes, schools, health centers, police posts, markets, water points, and so on and so forth to enable the community to reintegrate into this region. In terms of the funding modalities for the facility, there will be a regional window to support the work of the LCBC, as well as the regional and cross-border interventions which are envisaged in the strategy. But there will be national windows for each of the 4 LCBC countries, one national window for Nigeria, one for Chad, one for Cameroon, and one for Niger. UNDP will provide $1.5 million of its own core resources per year to the regional facility. A number of donors, and we will hear from them just after this statement, will provide funds that are earmarked or unearmarked to both the national and/or the regional windows as they prefer. But the most important thing is for the governments of the 4 countries, philanthropists, private sector, etc., will be expected to commit resources to meet their priorities. Since in the morning, we have been hearing about national ownership, about national leadership, and we believe that that commitment will come from the leadership of those 4 countries. In conclusion, why is UNDP investing in stabilization? Firstly, while regional stabilization is new to the organization, UNDP has experience of national stabilization programs in Iraq, in Libya, in other places, and I'm just mentioning those 2. Secondly, we have a country presence in over 170 countries and territories, and we will ramp up our capacity to deliver on this through what we are calling a service center model, basically meaning that we will have dedicated and integrated teams of program, operations, advisory, and technical people that will work with other partners to deliver this on the ground. But the most important reason why we're doing this is that if we do nothing, the risks that the region faces are just too high. So there is an imperative to invest in stabilization and to do that now. With those words, I would like to thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Carol. This will give you a sense of what immediate stabilization is, but I think it's important to always emphasize this is a key component of the delivery of the regional strategy, stabilization strategies adopted by LCBC and the African Union. With that, I will now invite 2-3 minute remarks by the representative of Germany, Corinna Frick, to come here and talk a bit more on the stabilization facility, but just to add that this work and the design of the stabilization facility was done in a manner that ensured that we got a lot of expertise and inputs from across the partners, and you'll hear from Germany, who's been helping us on that as well.
So, thank you, Mohammed, thank you, Carol, for this enlightening presentation on the Regional Stabilization Facility. Thank you to all your team and all the partners involved in bringing the initial idea on a facility. Thank you so much. On the facility conceived at the Lake Chad Conference in Berlin to life in such an innovative way. Over the last years, a lot of excellent work has been done in the Lake Chad region. Our joint efforts ranging from humanitarian assistance to crisis prevention and stabilization and medium to long-term sustainable development improved the life of millions of people. It is the foundation for positive changes from years to come. At the same time, significant challenges remain, and we will find ourselves at a critical juncture. Our stabilization approach to the region needs to be adapted to these realities, the realities on the ground. And this is exactly what the Regional Stabilization Facility is designed to do. This facility will develop tailor-made support measures to assist nationals as well as subnational governments and security forces in stabilizing key priority areas. Collaboration with other actors in the region and a strong focus on civil-military cooperation will be key to the success of the facility. Moreover, through its support to the AU LCBC region stabilization strategy, it will help lay the foundation for further stabilization activities and regional sustainable development in the medium to long term. From our perspective, the facility's focus, collaborative and civil military approach, together with a clear focus on the stabilization of livelihoods and resilience, is filling a strategic gap in the existing stabilization efforts. It can help operationalize the humanitarian development peace nexus and maintain the momentum created by the conferences in Oslo and Berlin, as well as the efforts made by the LCBC and the African Union. Germany commits an initial amount of up to 40 million euro, subject to positive project appraisal, over the period 2019 to 2022 to this facility. Following proof of concept, we stand ready to contribute additional funds. This commitment is in addition to our existing wide-ranging support in the field of humanitarian assistance, stabilization, early recovery, and long-term development, amounting to more than 260 million euro since 2018. The facility will only live up to its expectations if there is genuine cooperation between our Lake Chad government partners, UNDP, other national and international organizations and donors. We look forward to working with all of you, making the facility a real success. Thank you.
Thank you, Corina. That was a commitment by Germany to up to 40 million euros. I think we should give Germany a warmer and a stronger hands for the support they have shown. They have shown to the region. Another development partner who's been very key at supporting the work of the region and has shown a significant commitment early on has been Sweden. And I want to invite Ulla Andren, who's the regional head for Sweden based in Addis Ababa, to give us a few words in support of stabilization. Thank you, Ulla.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to represent Sweden here today at this very important meeting. I think I would like to quote some proverbs from the region today. I think that is very fitting. I have learned a lot from the governors that I've been listening to. So the first one, it may be attributed to the host country, is a Kanuri proverb. It says, "Hope is the pillar of the world." I think it's a very beautiful proverb. The second one comes from Cameroon. "What you don't know, you will not recognize." Also a very important word. The third proverb is from Nigeria. "He who doesn't look ahead always remains behind." And finally, from Chad, "Ask for support if you wish to remain strong." I think that we want you, the governors in these regions, to remain strong, to have hope, to have knowledge, and to look ahead. And then you will be successful in your developments to bring peace and prosperity to your communities. And Sweden would like to assist you, and we will support your endeavors, and we wish you very good luck in these endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ola. With those words, I will now invite a representative from the UK, Andy Scott. Andy and his team have been really critical in also providing both technical support and early on in designing the stabilization facility. Andy.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and I would also just like to start by saying how much it's my pleasure and honor to be here in Niamey representing the UK and to be able to take part and observe this Governors Forum. As Mohammed said, I come from the UK. I come from something called the Stabilization Unit, which is a cross-government unit which seeks to support countries that are in or coming out of conflict. And I've been covering the Lake Chad Basin area for the past couple of years. And one thing I can say that this is a region that the UK has been working on for some time, but we have become increasingly concerned about as the conflict with Boko Haram enters its 10th year. And I would like to echo many of the comments that have been made today, in particular recognizing that the only way of ending this conflict, the violence, and bringing stability to the region is by tackling the root causes of the conflict. So addressing the social, economic, and political marginalization of different communities, and as has been said, ultimately working towards a political solution to the conflict and rebuilding that social contract between communities and government. But also recognize that the conflict, which began in northeast Nigeria, has spread, and the consequences have been felt much more widely, with communities in Niger, Cameroon, and Chad all suffering acutely. And so it's in this context that I'd like to add to my German and Swedish colleagues' words and express the UK government's support for this regional stabilization facility. So building on experiences elsewhere, we see it as a hugely important initiative that will help to bring peace and hopefully stability to communities which have been affected by the conflict, and crucially, help to rebuild livelihoods in the long term. But it's an ambitious and challenging initiative, and among other things will depend on the full and active collaboration on the ground with the military and wider security actors. So all that said, we, along with the other members of the international community, want to support this facility. We also see it as a valuable means of bringing the international community together. Earlier in the day, we've heard about one of the issues being that there at times has been a lack of coordination amongst the international community and donors. Well, this is something that working together can help bring that extra cooperation. So to this end, the UK at the moment is pledging an initial £2 million to the regional stabilisation facility. Now, I acknowledge that that may sound a little more modest given what we've heard from Germany and Sweden, but I just will stress that this is our initial contribution to help the facility get off the ground, and we really envisage supporting this facility in the future. And we're also providing expertise and people and technical experts to help with certain aspects of the facility. But in the end, and I think this has been said, while we, along with the rest of the international community, can help support this initiative, we really recognise that it will need to be owned and driven at the national and local levels. And I think this is very much in the spirit of the words we've heard from the governors all throughout today. I think this is going to be key to the facility's broader success of helping to rebuild that relationship between communities and governments. So we hope that you, the governors, will be also fully supportive of this initiative and look forward to potentially co-funding it with you in the future and to striving towards achieving the success and potential. So on that note, I would just like to once again say it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for the support, and thank you also for the technical inputs that UK has been providing. I will now call on Angel Lozada from the Special Representative of the Sahel for the EU. You all know him. He's a champion of supporting the Sahel and the Lake Chad. And I learned also that recently that he's been an ambassador for 5 years in Nigeria. So he is as close as one can get a son of the region. Angel.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I feel very honored to take the floor now just after 3 members of the European Union, 3 member states have just intervened. The important contribution of Germany, who actually organized, as you know, the Berlin Conference, the contribution of Sweden, and the contribution also of the UK. And I feel very honored to intervene after them as EU, because the EU is the EU and always its member states, of course. I also would like to recall also that the EU has participated and as I said in my introduction this morning, has mobilized for the region from 2014 until 2019 more than 700 million euros for the region. But we have analyzed the situation today in the region, and actually, as I said, also I had the honor of going around the 4 countries of the region with the UN, with Dr. Chambers, with Dr. Fall also, and we saw the value, the added value that the facility can have, and we have analyzed that, and the role also that Undp can play for this facility, which I think is very important. We consider that the UNDP remains, with no doubt, an important partner for the EU in the humanitarian and early recovery response. UNDP is both an operational implementing partner and a mandate agency for the coordination of the early recovery sector. As the number of people affected by the crisis continues to be high, unfortunately, and that's the case, closer cooperation between humanitarian and development actors, but also a more reinforced, and that I think is important, civil-military coordination are in fact more pressing than ever. The EU will therefore support the UNDP Regional Stabilization Facility with 5 million euros, contribution funder under the UTF for emergency in Africa. It is a starting, thank you. It is a starting which has added to all the other programs, but I think now we are facing a very urgent and complicated and delicate situation. In line with the objective of the Trust Fund and taking into account the substantial portfolio of humanitarian development and security program funded by the EU in the Lake Chad region, the EU's contribution will especially target, as we have heard before, immediate stabilization of the insurgency-affected areas in the 4 riparian countries. A specific attention will be paid to political dialogue with the LCBC, national and local authorities, in order to ensure the substantiality and ownership of the action. UNDP is strongly therefore encouraged to coordinate this comprehensive and multi-scale action with international donors and NGOs in order to optimize the impact of the facility. The selection of the target areas shall be tightly coordinated with national and local authorities as well as with the beneficent communities. It is a must. It is the principle of ownership which is essential for the success of the whole process. The security situation of target areas shall be carefully assessed with competent military authorities and security agencies during the selection in order to ensure the feasibility of the action. These are the words that I wanted to transfer to you and to say the strong support in this partnership that you have from the EU and from also its member states. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Angel, and thank you also for the EU's commitment to the regional stabilization strategy, but also regional stabilization facility, which is a key component. I will now invite the newly elected chair of the Governors Forum in this region, my namesake, Mohammed Mudur, who's governor of Difa, to say a few words.
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, distingués invités, je voudrais, au nom de mes collègues gouverneurs des régions du lac Tchad, du lac Tchad, de façon générale, en tout cas remercier très sincèrement tous ces donateurs pour leur appui substantiel donc dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre donc, de cette stratégie. Je suis convaincu que cela va aller dans le sens de renforcer nos capacités, les capacités de nos États à pouvoir faire face à cette nébuleuse. Et comme tout à l'heure quelqu'un l'a dit, nous allons garder l'espoir que prochainement, cette question de Boko Haram sera derrière nous avec la solidarité de chacun. Donc je vous remercie vraiment pour cela. Salam alaikum.
Thank you, Governor Mohammed. Now I will call on Ambassador Haditha Mustafa of the African Union to say a few words.
Thank you very much. I think that the day is well spent. I would like to, on behalf of the chairperson, both of us are from the Lake Chad Basin. He's from Chad and I'm from Nigeria. To really say that we welcome the creation of this facility. Like we say in Nigeria, when you have many friends, then you are wealthy. So I'd like to really thank all the people who have always been with us. And you have really shown today that you're true partners and that our pain is your pain and that you're willing to put money. I'd like to assure you that we live this problem. These are our people. And that we fight this. And like you, we want to see results. And like you, we are very hopeful. And like you, we also want to deliver to our people. And we are very grateful for the support that you continue to give us. And we want to assure you that this money, working together with Undp, and the Lake Chad Basin will put together all that needs to be done. It's going to be spent where all of you have said it should be spent. It's going to be based on the needs of our people, and it's going to also be governed by fiduciary, transparency, and accountability, as is very, very important. So I'd like to say that thank you very much. We appreciate. I want to also say that as much as you're doing, we are also doing our best. The African Union, for instance, has also created a fund, which we call the Peace Fund. It has 3 windows, and I know that many of you are also still eager to contribute to that Peace Fund. And this Peace Fund is also to do capacity building. It's also to do prevention, because prevention is very important. And this window, this Peace Fund, for the first time, the African governments themselves have contributed 120 million already. The aim of this Peace Fund is to get to 400 million. But like I said, we really appreciate, and this gives us a lot of courage that we have a lot of friends. I thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Aditha. Just to reiterate, the role of the African Union in getting us here has been really critical, specifically supporting the development of the regional stabilization strategy under the leadership of Ambassador Nuhu. You all know Ambassador Nuhu, and I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that we won't be here, not only last year launching the regional stabilization strategy under your leadership, and now the work we are doing together in launching the facility. My colleague talked about the facility, but it's really important to understand that for this facility to work, the concept is that it has to be led, it has to be managed by both the governors and the regional institutions, because it's the entire concept of stabilization is that you enhance and build the social contract between the people and their governors. And Ambassador Nuhu himself has played a critical role, and I want to invite him to say a few words. Ambassador, over to you. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I rise particularly to commend the efforts of the UNDP for coming up with a stabilization facility for Lake Chad, an intervention fund that could not have come at a better time. It could not have come at a better time because while the more robust and all-encompassing regional stabilization strategy produced by the LCBC with the support of African Union and the UNDP, precisely its territorial action plans for the 8 affected states and provinces are being put together, costed, and funded. The humanitarian challenges associated with Boko Haram insurgency cannot be put on hold. They are all still there with their humbling effects to our individual and collective conscience. There is therefore an urgent need to address those challenges, and that is what the facility is designed to do. But this is not all that it is supposed to do. As you have heard during the introductory remarks, its specific objectives are the immediate stabilization of the specific target areas, cleared of Boko Haram control, but where communities remain vulnerable and continue infiltration and attack. The strengthening of the extended stabilization process through the implementation of the Lake Chad Basin Commission Regional Stabilization Strategy, and facilitating transition from humanitarian assistance to development and resilience. Put differently, for emphasis, the facility will enhance civil-military cooperation to design and implement joint action plans for the immediate stabilization of specific target areas, to increase security and rule of law, and to provide infrastructure, basic services, and livelihood opportunities as a rapid response package. It will also underwrite Lake Chad Basin Commission and African Union implementation of the stabilization strategy, strengthening coherence and coordination of response to the Lake Chad crisis, and establishing mechanisms and processes required to operationalize the new way of working and a transition from provision of humanitarian assistance to development and resilience. In view of the foregoing laudable objectives of the facility, I wish to call on all our esteemed donors to once again dip their hands in their pockets to contribute towards funding the full implementation of the facility. We cannot afford to wait any longer. Time is of the essence. I thank our partners who have just made commitments to the fund, and I thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Before I call on my boss, I want to also recognize the work and the contribution for designing the regional stabilization facility. My own RC, Edward Kalon, who was the resident representative at that time in Nigeria, and the work he did. We have a resident coordinator here, Stephen Tal, who also worked on supporting the facility in its inception. So thank you also for the leadership you provided for all the work that has been done. I also want to recognize, I am the resident representative for Nigeria, so I have to recognize my governor, the governor of Borno, and we have representatives from Adamawa and Yobe here. And let me tell you something about governor of Borno. He's an executive governor, very busy man, one of the largest states that he oversees. But when we sent him the concept note on the facility, we received track changes by the governor himself. So you can see his own commitment and support. When my colleague was doing a presentation, you saw that beautiful picture of Ngom. The governor, in his previous job before he became the governor, he was leading the RRR in the Borno state, and he's been involved in leading that work in Borno. So I'm very lucky to have a governor like him and the governor of Yobe and Adamawa who understand what stabilization is all about. That doesn't mean I also have my friends from the Cameroon and my colleagues here. We have the resident representative from Cameroon, Chad. We've also been pushed to work together because, to be honest, most of us have never done a regional cross-border work, but the challenges of the continent are becoming more and more regional, and we're also forced to work very closely together in solving the situation. And of course, I will never forget my own sister from the other side of the continent, Diana, and the leadership she's also provided in designing this. With that, I want to call my director, the head of UNDP Africa, and I already said my boss, the person who's going to ensure that we do the job. She also happens to be from this region, Ahuna Ezian Konwa, to come and give us a few words as well. Thank you, Ahuna.
Thank you, Mohammed. What a wonderful way to end the day. I just want to begin by thanking donor partners for this vote of confidence in the contributions that they have announced today. Confidence not only in UNDP, but also in the leadership of the region, the leadership of LCBC, in the African Union, that you take a step of faith, so to speak, that you would like us to kickstart this and hope that it works. But I have to tell you that there is a huge determination on our part that we have to do everything that we can to make it work. As we all sit in the comfort and luxury of this hotel. I want to invite you to reflect on the woman who lost her life today while giving birth in this region, because they could not get her quickly enough to a health center and to a health professional who could address her otherwise preventable condition. I want to invite you to reflect on the child who would grow up an orphan because both his parents were taken by Boko Haram. I want to invite you to reflect on the boy whose playground and classroom has been turned into a war room and is having to be made to carry out extremist and violent acts instead of learning in his classroom. I want to invite you to think about a girl who is raped today by strangers. Think today about the woman, the mother, who has gone without breakfast, lunch, and dinner because she could not watch her child starve to death. This stabilization facility is about restoring stolen hope. We have people in this region who face on a daily basis the fear that they may not have a future. That is a reality on a daily basis for fellow human beings like all of us here. And I'm not going to make a long speech. I just want to read the words of a song, which for me represents the step that we're taking here today to alleviate the suffering of all these people through this stabilization facility. The words go like this: it's better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. Better to let its bright light show where you stand. For its glow will melt the dark night like the coming of a new dawn, and hope will be born from that small flame in your hand. In the spirit of Proverbs, African Proverbs that our sister from Sweden began with, let me end with an African proverb, one from my country, Nigeria, which says, you cannot shave a man's head.
Official launch of the Regional Stabilization Facility. Ahuna and all the governors and the speakers, Ambassador Nuhu, if you can come up here, just